Tonight, we're going to walk through every single episode of Dragon Ball Z, from the moment Raditz arrived on Earth to the final farewell between Goku and his friends. Each episode holds its own quiet piece of history, small decisions made in recording booths, animation studios, and late-night writing sessions that shaped what millions of people would experience. Before you drift into sleep, you're welcome to subscribe for more calm Dragon Ball stories. And if you feel like it, tell me where you're listening from tonight. These details exist in the margins of Dragon Ball's history, small enough to forget, but meaningful enough to remember, and they begin with Episode 1, where a series was nearly given a completely different name before anyone knew what letter would define a generation. Episode 1. The first episode of Dragon Ball Z was never meant to carry that title. Originally, the production team considered calling it Episode 154 of the original Dragon Ball series. The transition seemed natural enough at the time. Goku had grown up, become a father, and the story was shifting into something larger. But Kazuhiko Torishima, Akira Toriyama's first editor at Shonen Jump, felt differently about how the anime had been progressing. He wasn't satisfied with the direction, the pacing, or perhaps the sense that the show had become too comfortable with itself. Torishima brought in new staff members. They discussed how to reframe what was coming next. Someone suggested that this moment in the story, where Goku discovers his alien heritage and his son is kidnapped by his brother from space, felt significant enough to deserve a fresh start. They decided to rebrand the series entirely. It would be called something new, something that signaled a departure from what came before. One of the early titles they considered was Gohan's Big Adventure. This name made it quite far into the planning stages. Scripts were written with that title on the cover. Storyboards carried that name across the top of the page. The idea made sense in some ways, since Gohan would be central to much of what followed. But when Toriyama heard about this, he pushed back gently. He insisted that Goku was still the main character, still the heart of the story. Toriyama suggested the name Dragon Ball Z instead. The letter Z, he explained, represented finality. It was the end of the alphabet, the last chapter. It sounded definitive and bold. It also sounded cool, which mattered in its own way. The name stuck. Other titles had been floated around during those same discussions. New Dragon Ball was too plain. Dragon Ball 2 felt flat. Dragon Ball Wonder Boy was too whimsical. Dragon Ball 90 was tied too closely to the year of its release. None of them carried the weight that Z did. That single letter became iconic, shorthand for a generation's introduction to anime. And yet, if Torishima hadn't been dissatisfied, if Toriyama hadn't insisted on Goku remaining central, we might have known this entire saga by a completely different name. The alternate timeline where Gohan's Big Adventure became the title is strange to imagine now. Episode 2. In the original serialized version of the manga that ran in Shonen Jump, there was a small mistake that almost no one noticed at first. When Gohan is introduced as a character in the story's beginning, he mentions that he is 3 years old. This age made sense in the context of the timeline Toriyama had been building. Goku and Chi-Chi had married 5 years earlier at the end of the original series. Gohan being 3 fit the rough math. But something about it didn't sit right with Toriyama after publication. Perhaps he realized the timeline was tighter than he thought. Perhaps he wanted Gohan to feel slightly older, more capable of the journey that was about to unfold for him. Whatever the reason, in the very next chapter, Toriyama quietly adjusted Gohan's age to 4 years old. No announcement was made, no footnote appeared explaining the change. It simply happened. This correction carried over into the anime production. The voice actors were told Gohan was 4, not 3. The animation reflected this adjusted age. When the manga was reprinted for collected volumes, every edition from that point forward listed Gohan as 4 years old. The original chapter with the error was corrected in those reprints as well. It's the kind of small adjustment that happens frequently in long-running serialized work. An author publishes a chapter, sees it in print, and realizes something needs to shift. But what makes this particular change interesting is how seamlessly it was absorbed into the larger story. Most people who encountered Dragon Ball Z never knew that Gohan's age had been uncertain for even a single chapter. The correction became the truth before the mistake could take root. Episode 3, the first Dragon Ball Z film, Dead Zone, premiered in theaters before this episode ever aired. The movie told a self-contained story that borrowed heavily from the narrative structure of the Raditz encounter. Gohan is kidnapped by villains who want to use his hidden power. Goku and Piccolo, former enemies, must team up to rescue him. There's even a moment where Gohan's rage unlocks a burst of energy that saves his father from danger. The similarities weren't accidental. The film's writers looked at what was working in the early episodes of Z and decided to remix those elements into a theatrical experience. Even specific dialogue was mirrored. When Goku realizes that Piccolo is wearing weighted clothing, the exchange between them in Dead Zone is nearly identical to the exchange in the series. This approach of taking plot structures from the main story and reshaping them into something new would become a pattern for nearly every Dragon Ball Z movie that followed. Some films would borrow from the Frieza arc, others would echo the Android Saga or the Cell games. The movies existed in their own continuity, free from the constraints of the manga's timeline, but they always felt connected to the series because they were built from the same emotional beats. It was a way of giving audiences a familiar feeling while still surprising them with new villains and set pieces. Dead Zone introduced Garlic Jr., a character who would later return in a filler arc of the anime. His desire for immortality and his grudge against Kami set up a conflict that felt appropriately scaled for a film. The movie's final battle takes place in the Dead Zone itself, a swirling void that Garlic Jr. opens to trap his enemies. Gohan's hidden power closes the portal and saves everyone. It was a template that worked, and the films would return to it again and again. Episode 4. When Piccolo loses his arm during the fight with Raditz, something strange happens with the animation. His blood is shown as red. It flows from the wound in a way that looks almost human. But later in the same arc, when Piccolo's body is damaged again, his blood is purple. The change is jarring if you notice it. It suggests that someone in the production pipeline realized Piccolo's Namekian biology should be visually distinct from human characters. This kind of mid-arc correction was fairly common in the early days of Dragon Ball Z. The production schedule was intense, with episodes being animated and aired at a rapid pace. Decisions about visual consistency sometimes had to be made on the fly. Piccolo's blood being red in episode 4 was likely an oversight, a default choice made by the animation team before someone pointed out that it didn't make sense for his character. By the time his blood appears again, the choice had been corrected. Purple became the standard color for Namekian blood, a small detail that helped reinforce the fact that Piccolo was fundamentally different from the human Z fighters. It was never addressed in dialogue. No character commented on it. The change simply became the new normal, and most viewers accepted it without question. Episode 5. This episode marks the first appearance of Vegeta and Nappa, though they look different from the versions most people remember. Their armor is colored incorrectly. Vegeta's palette is often referred to as Arlia Vegeta by fans, named after the planet they destroy in this episode. The colors were chosen by Toei Animation because Akira Toriyama hadn't yet finalized Vegeta's design in the manga. This episode aired in May of 1989, and Vegeta's official colors wouldn't appear in a manga chapter until the following month. The animation staff had to make their best guess. They gave Vegeta a different color scheme, one that wouldn't match what came later. When Vegeta and Nappa finally arrive on Earth, their colors are corrected to align with Toriyama's manga. Dragon Ball Kai, the modern remaster of the series, went back and recolored Vegeta's appearance in this episode to match his proper design. Interestingly, Nappa's armor was left with its original incorrect colors, even in Kai. No one seems to know why. This episode also contains the first mention of the term Super Saiyan, though the meaning is completely different from what it would later become. Nappa refers to Saiyan hybrids as something of a Super Saiyan. suggesting that mixed heritage creates exceptional warriors. He's talking about raw power, not the legendary transformation. The phrase exists in the episode, but it doesn't carry the weight it will later. It's a seed planted without intention, waiting years to grow into something larger. Episode 6. The length of Snake Way depends on which language version of the series you watch. In the original Japanese dialogue, Snake Way is 1 million kilometers long. That translates to roughly 621,000 miles. It's an immense distance, the kind of journey that should take months or years for anyone traveling on foot. But in the English dub, produced by Funimation, the distance is stated as 10,000 miles. This change was made without much explanation, possibly to make Goku's journey feel less absurd to Western audiences. The discrepancy was corrected in Dragon Ball Kai, where the dialogue was redubbed to match the original Japanese script more closely. But for many years, English-speaking fans believed Snake Way was significantly shorter than it actually was. What's even stranger is that an early line in the English dub refers to Snake Way as 1,000,000 miles, which would be approximately 1,609,000 kilometers. That would make Goku's journey even longer than the Japanese version. If that number was accurate, it would mean Goku ran farther in the dub than he did in the original. It's unclear whether this was an intentional change or simply an inconsistency in the script. Either way, it adds a layer of confusion to one of the most iconic training sequences in the series. The truth is that Snake Way's length has been stated differently across multiple versions of Dragon Ball Z, and no single answer feels definitive. Episode 7, the title page for Chapter 207, which this episode adapts, features Gohan dressed as Sun Wukong, the legendary hero from Journey to the West. This Chinese novel from the 16th century was one of Akira Toriyama's primary inspirations for the original Dragon Ball. The image of Gohan in that costume is a direct callback to the series' roots. The same version of Gohan appears in the first ending animation of Dragon Ball Z, where he rides on top of Shenron through clouds and sky. Journey to the West tells the story of a Monkey King who gains incredible powers and goes on a journey to retrieve sacred Buddhist scriptures. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, is mischievous, powerful, and nearly immortal. He can transform, summon clouds to fly on, and fight gods. Goku's entire character was originally a reimagining of Sun Wukong, complete with a tail and a magical staff. Gohan's appearance as the Monkey King in this episode's artwork is Toriyama's way of honoring that connection. There's also a strange detail about this episode's credits. In the English dub, one of the background characters is listed as Tien's mom. She has no relation to Tien in the original Japanese version. The character is simply a woman living in the wilderness. But in a curious coincidence, Linda Young, the actress who voiced this unnamed woman in the dub, is the real-life mother of John Bergmeyer, who voiced Tien. So while the character isn't Tien's mother in the story, the actors playing them were actually related. Small connections like this exist throughout the series, moments where the production history creates its own strange poetry. Episode 8. In the manga, when Bulma uses Raditz's scouter to measure the power levels of the Z-fighters across the world, she reads several numbers aloud. Yamcha is at 177. Tien is at 250. Piccolo is at 329. These numbers establish a rough hierarchy among the human fighters and show just how much stronger Piccolo has become compared to everyone else. But in the anime adaptation, this scene is cut down. Bulma only reads Krillin and Master Roshi's power levels, which are 206 and 139. The anime adds a filler moment where Turtle's power level is measured at .0001, a joke about how weak the small turtle is, despite living with some of the world's strongest fighters. This change removed important context about where the other characters stood in terms of strength. It also meant that anime-only viewers had no frame of reference for Yamcha, Tien, and Piccolo's abilities before they began training at Kami's lookout. What's interesting is that the storyboards for this episode featured Bulma wearing Raditz's Saiyan armor on the cover page. It was a playful image, imagining what she might look like as a warrior instead of a scientist. The drawing never made it into the actual episode, but it suggests that the animation staff were thinking about how to visually emphasize Bulma's brief moment as the group's tactical analyst. She was the one who figured out how to use alien technology before anyone else even understood what it was. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. Episode 9. This is the first completely filler episode of Dragon Ball Z. The entire story focuses on Gohan befriending a broken robot in the wilderness, while Piccolo watches from a distance. It's one of the quietest episodes in the series, with almost no action and very little dialogue. The episode is carried almost entirely by Gohan's voice actress, Masako Nozawa, and the actor voicing the robot. It's a two-person show, which was unusual for anime at the time. In the Dragon Ball GT Perfect Files Volume 2, Nozawa explained that this episode was one of her favorites to record. She said it was the first time she had done something like that in anime, where only two performers carried an entire episode. Apparently, there were concerns within the production team. Some people thought that an episode with just two characters wouldn't hold the audience's attention. They suggested cutting it, but the anime staff defended the script, insisting it would work. The television network agreed to let them try it. After the episode aired, the studio received an unexpected flood of letters from viewers saying the episode was moving and beautifully done. It became one of the most remembered filler episodes in the series, not because of fights or power-ups, but because it gave Gohan a moment to grow emotionally. The robot teaches him courage without ever intending to. It breaks down protecting him, and Gohan realizes that strength isn't just about fighting. The episode has a melancholic tone that contrasts sharply with the intensity of the Saiyan arc. It's a breath before the storm. Gohan is still alone, still frightened, but he's starting to understand what it means to be brave. The robot, despite being a machine, becomes one of the most emotionally resonant characters in early Dragon Ball Z. Its sacrifice is quiet, undramatic, and somehow that makes it more affecting. Episode 10. This episode introduces Yamcha's career as a professional baseball player. He plays for a team called the Titans, which is a misspelling of Titans. The idea to give Yamcha this career path came directly from Akira Toriyama. According to the Dragon Ball Z anime special guide, Toriyama sent a memo to the anime staff explaining what Yamcha had been doing after his breakup with Bulma. He left West City, moved away from the group, and started playing baseball because he needed something to focus on besides martial arts and his failed relationship. The manga doesn't show where any of the human fighters are before they gather at Kami's lookout to train. Toriyama wanted to fill in that gap for the anime, giving Yamcha a life outside of fighting. Baseball made sense for his character. He had always been athletic, and his reflexes were sharp enough to handle professional sports. The episode shows him hitting home runs effortlessly and catching impossible fly balls with casual ease. His power level makes him the best player on the field by a ridiculous margin. This detail about Yamcha being a baseball player would be referenced years later in Dragon Ball Super. During the Tournament of Destroyers arc, Champa challenges Universe 7 to a baseball game. Yamcha is brought in to lead the team, and for one brief glorious episode, he's the most valuable member of the group. It's one of the few times that filler content from Z was directly acknowledged and expanded in the modern series. Yamcha's baseball career became canon in a strange roundabout way. Episode 11. This episode is almost entirely filler and focuses on Vegeta and Nappa destroying a planet called Arlia. The planet's inhabitants are insectoid creatures ruled by a tyrant named King Moai. The names of the important characters in this episode are all references to lost or ancient civilizations. King Atla is named after Atlantis. Lemlia references Lemuria, a hypothetical lost continent. King Moai takes his name from the Moai statues on Easter Island, massive stone figures whose construction remains partially mysterious. The episode exists to establish Vegeta and Nappa as ruthless conquerors before they arrive on Earth. They are shown destroying an entire civilization without hesitation or remorse. Nappa takes pleasure in the violence. Vegeta is colder, more efficient. He sees the destruction of Arlia as a waste of time, a detour forced on them by their orders from Frieza. The planet is obliterated in minutes, and they leave without looking back. What's interesting is that this episode doesn't exist in the manga at all. It's pure anime invention, created to stretch out the time before Vegeta and Nappa reach Earth. The Arlia arc was completely removed from Dragon Ball Kai, cut in the effort to make the series more faithful to Toriyama's original story. For fans who grew up with the original Z, the episode remains a strange, almost dreamlike memory. It feels disconnected from the rest of the series, a side story that happened in a vacuum. Episode 12. This episode shows what Tien has been up to before training at Kami's lookout. He's living in the wilderness, far from cities and people, focusing entirely on his training. Launch is with him, still obsessed with him, still chasing him despite his complete lack of romantic interest. This dynamic was set up at the end of the Piccolo Jr. arc in the manga, but Toriyama never followed up on it. Launch essentially disappears from the manga after the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. Toriyama later explained in an interview that he simply forgot about Launch. He admitted that she fell out of his mind as the story shifted focus to the Saiyans and space travel. But when the anime staff asked what Launch had been doing during this time, Toriyama clarified that she and Tien had lived together for a while. Tien, however, was only interested in farming and martial arts. He had no interest in romance. Launch eventually left but still visited him occasionally. The episode also mentions that Chiaotzu became wealthy by hiring himself out to local farmers. His telekinetic abilities made him invaluable for agricultural work. He could move heavy equipment, organize crops, and handle tasks that would normally require multiple workers. It's one of the few times the series acknowledges that psychic powers could be useful for things other than fighting. Chiaotzu found a practical application for his abilities and made a comfortable living from it. Episode 13, the scene where Launch tries to climb Korin Tower and runs into Appa and Bora, was also Akira Toriyama's idea. He specifically redesigned Appa for this filler episode, updating his appearance to reflect the years that had passed since the original Dragon Ball. Appa wouldn't appear in the series again until episode 285, near the very end of the Buu arc. His reappearance in that later episode is a callback to this moment, a reminder that the world of Dragon Ball is larger than just the Z fighters. Toriyama also provided ideas for Goku's adventures along Snake Way. He suggested that Goku should travel through hell at some point, encountering lost souls and strange demons. He came up with the character of Princess Snake, a beautiful and dangerous ruler of a palace built on Snake Way. He even suggested the idea of Goku eating clouds for sustenance, which became one of the more surreal moments of his journey. These ideas helped the anime stretch out what was a relatively brief training montage in the manga. Toriyama's involvement in the anime's filler content was inconsistent. Sometimes he provided detailed notes and character designs. Other times he left the anime staff to figure things out on their own. But when he did contribute, his ideas tended to be the ones that felt most at home in the series. Princess Snake in particular is a memorable villain despite being anime only. Her palace and her manipulation of Goku fit the tone of Dragon Ball perfectly. Episode 14. There's a noticeable animation error during a scene where Piccolo is meditating. He causes the wind to blow strongly enough that Gohan is pushed backward across the ground. But in that moment, Gohan's tail is visible again. This is strange because Piccolo cut off Gohan's tail just a few episodes earlier to prevent him from transforming into a Great Ape. The tail shouldn't have grown back yet, and in fact, it won't return for the rest of the series. Mistakes like this were common in Dragon Ball Z's original run. The production schedule was so tight that there wasn't always time to catch errors before episodes aired. Animators working on one scene might not have seen the previous episodes and could easily forget that a character's design had changed. Gohan's tail appears and disappears throughout the early arcs depending on who was animating a particular scene. Eventually, Toriyama decided to stop regrowing it entirely, simplifying things for everyone involved. Episode 15. This episode shows Ox King visiting Chi-Chi after she locks herself away in Grandpa Gohan's old house. She's mourning both Gohan's kidnapping and Goku's death. The house where she's staying appears to be built right next to Goku and Chi-Chi's home, which is a complete invention of the anime. In the manga, we don't see Goku's house until chapter 310, and even then we don't get a clear look at it until the Cell arc. When Goku's home finally appears in the manga, it's built near a river at the foot of a mountain, and it looks completely different from the version shown in this filler episode. The anime created a design for Goku's house years before Toriyama had finalized it himself. This led to a continuity issue that was never really addressed. The two versions of the house just coexist, each valid in their own way. The last time Grandpa Gohan's house appears in the manga is when Goku returns to it after the first arc. He retrieves his belongings and leaves for Kame House. After that, the house is simply never shown or mentioned again. The anime, by bringing it back during the Saiyan arc, gave it more emotional weight. It became a place of refuge for Chi-Chi, a connection to her past with Goku and the life they were building before everything changed. Episode 16. This episode is also completely filler, but it gives Gohan an important moment of growth. After days or weeks of wandering in the wilderness, he finds his way back to his family's home. But when he arrives, he realizes that his mother would never let him leave again if she knew he was alive. She would lock him inside, keep him safe, and prevent him from ever becoming strong enough to protect himself or anyone else. So Gohan makes the difficult choice to leave without telling her he was there. It's a mature decision for a 4-year-old to make. He understands that his mother's love is also a cage. Chi-Chi wants to protect him from the world, but the world is coming whether she approves or not. Gohan knows that if he stays, he'll be weak when the Saiyans arrive. So he turns around and walks back into the wilderness, back to his training with Piccolo, back to the pain and fear that will make him strong enough to survive what's coming. The episode emphasizes Gohan's internal conflict. He's terrified, exhausted, and desperate to see his mother. But he's also beginning to understand what his father would do in the same situation. Goku would choose strength over comfort. He would choose the hard path if it meant protecting the people he loved. Gohan is learning to think like a warrior, even though he's still a child. The episode is quiet, emotional, and one of the better examples of what Dragon Ball Z's filler could accomplish when it focused on character rather than action. Episode 17. The scene where Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, and Chiaotzu arrive at Kami's lookout to train is extended significantly in the anime. In the manga, they simply appear and begin training. The anime adds dialogue, character interactions, and a sense of anticipation about what's coming. Mr. Popo explains the gravity of the situation. The Earth will be invaded by 2 Saiyans who are far stronger than Raditz. If the Z-Fighters fail, everyone will die. This is one of the first moments in the series where the stakes are clearly defined for the human characters. They know they're preparing for a battle they might not survive. Yamcha, in particular, seems aware of how outmatched they are. He's weaker than the others, and he knows it. But he trains anyway, pushing himself as hard as he can, because the alternative is doing nothing while the world ends. The training at the lookout is never shown in detail. We don't see the exercises, the techniques, or the methods Mr. Popo uses to make them stronger. The anime could have invented fillers showing their progress, but instead it jumps forward in time. The next time we see the Z-Fighters, they're significantly more powerful. The training is implied rather than depicted, leaving it to the audience's imagination. Episode 18. This episode begins to show Goku's training with King Kai. Though he hasn't reached the planet yet, he's still running along Snake Way, exhausted and hungry. The anime adds several filler scenes of Goku struggling with the seemingly endless road. He talks to himself, reminisces about his friends, and wonders how much farther he has to go. These scenes slow down the pacing significantly, but they also give the audience a sense of just how isolating this journey is. In the manga, Goku's trip along Snake Way is condensed into a few panels. He runs, he falls off at one point, he climbs back up, and then he arrives at King Kai's planet. The anime stretches this into multiple episodes, filling the space with Goku's internal thoughts and small obstacles. Some viewers find this pacing frustrating. Others appreciate the way it emphasizes Goku's determination. He keeps running even when it seems pointless, because he knows his friends are counting on him. Episode 19. This episode introduces Princess Snake, one of the anime's most memorable filler villains. She rules a palace built along Snake Way and invites Goku inside for food and rest. She's beautiful, charming, and appears to be exactly what Goku needs after his long journey. But she's also a predator. Her goal is to trap Goku in her palace forever, keeping him as a servant or a companion or perhaps just a meal. Goku, being Goku, doesn't realize she's dangerous until it's almost too late. He eats her food, compliments her hospitality, and completely misses every signal that something is wrong. When she finally reveals her true form, a massive serpent, Goku has to fight his way out. The battle is short and somewhat comedic, but it establishes an important pattern for the anime's filler arcs. Goku will encounter strange beings on his journey, face unexpected challenges, and always find a way to survive through a combination of strength and luck. Princess Snake's palace is visually interesting. It's ornate, filled with food and decorations, and completely out of place on Snake Way. There's no explanation for why it exists or how she built it. She's just there, waiting for travelers who never come. Goku is apparently the first person to pass through in a very long time. The loneliness of her situation is never explicitly addressed, but it's implied. She's been alone for so long that she's willing to trap someone just to have company. Episode 20. This episode continues Goku's escape from Princess Snake's palace. He's chased by her servants, massive snake creatures that try to drag him back inside. The palace begins to crumble as he fights his way out, and he barely escapes before the entire structure collapses. The scene is dramatic and over the top, filled with explosions and falling debris. It's pure filler, but it's entertaining filler. After escaping, Goku resumes his run along Snake Way. He's more cautious now, aware that there might be other dangers waiting for him. The anime uses this moment to reflect on how far he's come and how much farther he still has to go. His internal monologue reveals his doubts. He wonders if he'll make it in time. He worries about his friends facing the Saiyans without him, but he doesn't stop running. Episode 21. This episode finally brings Goku to King Kai's planet. After months of running, he reaches the end of Snake Way and sees a small planet floating in space. King Kai lives there with his monkey companion Bubbles and his grasshopper friend Gregory. The planet's gravity is 10 times stronger than Earth's, making even simple movements exhausting for Goku. He collapses almost immediately after arriving, his body unable to handle the pressure. King Kai is introduced as a strange comedic figure. He's small, wears sunglasses, and tells terrible jokes. He doesn't seem like someone who could teach Goku anything useful, but he's also clearly powerful in ways Goku doesn't understand yet. He watches the universe unfold from his tiny planet, observing events across the galaxy. He knows about the Saiyans, their strength, and the threat they represent. He agrees to train Goku, but only after Goku makes him laugh with a joke. The humor in this episode contrasts sharply with the tension building on Earth. While Goku is telling bad jokes to earn his training, the Z-Fighters are preparing for a battle that could end everything. The tonal shift is jarring but intentional. Dragon Ball Z often balanced comedy and drama, sometimes within the same episode. King Kai's planet is a place where both exist simultaneously. Episode 22. Goku's training with King Kai begins with the simple task of catching Bubbles, King Kai's pet monkey. This seems easy at first, but the increased gravity makes it nearly impossible. Bubbles is used to the planet's conditions and moves effortlessly. Goku, meanwhile, can barely walk without collapsing. He spends days chasing Bubbles, slowly adapting to the gravity, building strength and speed in the process. The anime stretches this training sequence across multiple episodes. In the manga, it's much shorter, but the extended version gives the audience time to appreciate the absurdity of the situation. Goku, one of the strongest fighters on Earth, is reduced to crawling on the ground, exhausted by a planet's natural gravity. It's humbling in a way that most of his training has never been. He's not fighting a master or sparring with a rival. He's just trying to move normally in an environment that resists every action. Episode 23. After finally catching Bubbles, Goku is given his next task, hitting Gregory with a hammer. Gregory is even faster than Bubbles, and he can fly. The game seems impossible. Goku swings the hammer and misses over and over, his movements too slow and too heavy under the planet's gravity. Gregory taunts him, flying in circles, always just out of reach. This training is repetitive, almost meditative. Goku swings, misses, tries again. The episode focuses on the rhythm of his attempts, the gradual improvement in his speed and accuracy. It's not exciting in a traditional sense, but it emphasizes the discipline required to grow stronger. Power doesn't come from breakthroughs or transformations here. It comes from doing the same thing over and over until your body adapts. Episode 24. On Earth, the Z-Fighters' training is also progressing. We see brief glimpses of them sparring with each other, testing their new abilities. They've all grown significantly stronger, though the exact numbers aren't revealed yet. Yamcha seems more confident. Tien is pushing himself harder than ever. Krillin is keeping up despite being the smallest and physically weakest of the group. Chi-Chi, meanwhile, is still grieving. She doesn't know that Goku is alive and training to return. She believes her husband is gone forever, and her son is missing, possibly dead. The episode cuts back to her occasionally, showing her sitting alone in the house, staring at photos of Goku and Gohan. It's a reminder that while the warriors prepare for battle, the people they're protecting are suffering in their absence. Episode 25. Gohan's training with Piccolo continues in the wilderness. The episodes showing their time together are sparse, mostly filler scenes that expand on Gohan's gradual transformation from a scared child into someone capable of defending himself. Piccolo is harsh, unforgiving, and emotionally distant. He doesn't comfort Gohan when he's hurt. He doesn't praise him when he improves. He simply pushes him harder, believing that compassion will make the boy weak. But despite his cold exterior, Piccolo is starting to care about Gohan. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it's there. He watches Gohan sleep at night. He makes sure the boy has enough food. When Gohan is truly in danger, Piccolo intervenes without hesitation. The bond forming between them is the emotional core of the Saiyan arc, and these filler episodes do important work in establishing that connection. Episode 26. Goku finally manages to hit Gregory with the hammer. The moment is treated as a major victory, with King Kai celebrating and Goku collapsing from exhaustion. But the training isn't over. Now that Goku has adapted to the planet's gravity, King Kai can begin teaching him real techniques. The first is the Kaio-Ken, a power amplification technique that multiplies Goku's strength and speed, but puts enormous strain on his body. King Kai explains that the Kaio-Ken is dangerous. If Goku pushes it too far, his body could tear itself apart from the inside. It's not a technique to be used lightly, but it's also the only way Goku will be strong enough to face the Saiyans. The technique represents a theme that will run through the rest of Dragon Ball Z. Power always comes with risk. Every new transformation, every new level of strength requires sacrifice. Episode 27. The second technique King Kai teaches Goku is the Spirit Bomb, a massive sphere of energy gathered from the life force of everything around him. It's a technique that requires patience, focus, and a pure heart. Only someone without malice can use it. The Spirit Bomb is meant to be a last resort, a weapon used when all else has failed. It's also slow to charge, making it impractical in most battles. King Kai is hesitant to teach Goku the Spirit Bomb. He warns him that it could destroy an entire planet if used carelessly. But he also recognizes that Goku needs every advantage he can get. The Saiyans are coming, and they're stronger than anything the Earth has faced before. Goku practices forming the spirit bomb, gathering energy from the grass, the trees, the sky. It's a strange, almost spiritual technique, completely different from anything he's learned before. Episode 28. Back on Earth, the day of the Saiyans' arrival is approaching. The Z fighters are as ready as they'll ever be. Mr. Popo and Kami watch them from the lookout, unable to help beyond providing training. Kami knows that the upcoming battle could destroy everything. He's lived for centuries, seen the rise and fall of civilizations, and this feels different. The Saiyans aren't conquerors looking for territory. They're coming to Earth for the Dragon Balls, and once they have them, there will be no reason to leave anyone alive. The episode focuses on the quiet moments before the storm. The Z fighters say goodbye to their loved ones without explicitly saying it's a goodbye. Yamcha visits Bulma, Tien meditates alone. Krillin trains until his body can't take anymore. They all know they might die, but they also know there's no other choice. Someone has to stand between the Saiyans and the Earth, even if it's hopeless. Episode 29. Vegeta and Nappa's ship is shown traveling through space, slowly approaching Earth. The inside of the ship is cramped and utilitarian. They're in stasis for most of the journey, conserving energy for the battles ahead. The anime adds scenes of Vegeta dreaming, remembering his time under Frieza's command, the planets he destroyed, the people he killed. These memories are cold, clinical. He feels nothing about them. Nappa, by contrast, seems excited about the upcoming fight. He's looking forward to testing his strength against the Earth's defenders. He believes it will be easy, a quick victory followed by a wish for immortality. He doesn't understand yet that the Earth has fighters who will make him work for his victory. Vegeta is more cautious. He's heard the reports about Goku, the low-class Saiyan who defeated Raditz. He's curious about how strong Goku has become. Episode 30. This episode shows Gohan making significant progress in his training. He's faster, stronger, and more confident. Piccolo pushes him into increasingly dangerous situations, forcing him to adapt or get hurt. There's a scene where Piccolo throws Gohan into a cliffside, and Gohan has to catch himself before hitting the rocks below. He fails at first, crashing painfully, but he learns to control his energy in midair. The training is brutal, but it's working. Gohan is becoming a fighter despite his gentle nature. He doesn't enjoy hurting things, but he's learning how to protect himself. Piccolo watches his progress with something close to pride, though he would never admit it out loud. The episode ends with Piccolo telling Gohan that he's finally ready for what's coming. The Saiyans will arrive in a matter of days. Episode 31. Goku's training with King Kai is complete. He's mastered the Kaio-Ken and the Spirit Bomb, adapted to the planet's gravity, and grown stronger than he ever thought possible. King Kai tells him it's time to return to Earth. The Saiyans will arrive soon, and Goku needs to be there to face them. But there's a problem. The journey back along Snake Way will take months, just like the journey there did. Goku realizes he might not make it in time. He could train for years on King Kai's planet and still arrive too late to save anyone. The thought terrifies him, but King Kai reassures him that Kami is working on a solution. There's a way to bring Goku back to life, faster, though it will require the Dragon Balls and perfect timing. Goku has to trust that his friends will handle everything until he arrives. Episode 32. The Saiyan's ship finally appears in Earth's atmosphere. It crashes into a city, destroying buildings and killing civilians immediately. Vegeta and Nappa step out of the smoking crater, completely unbothered by the destruction they've caused. They look around at the terrified humans, unimpressed. Nappa suggests they start by wiping out the city as a warm-up. Vegeta agrees, seeing no reason to wait. The destruction of East City is fast and merciless. Nappa raises 2 fingers, and massive explosions erupt across the entire area. Buildings collapse, streets are torn apart. Thousands of people die in seconds. The camera lingers on the devastation, showing the smoke rising from the ruins. It's one of the darkest moments in Dragon Ball Z. a reminder that the Saiyans are mass murderers without conscience. The Z fighters sense the Saiyans' energy from across the world. They know it's time. Gohan feels the power and is immediately terrified. Piccolo puts a hand on his shoulder, telling him to stay calm. They fly toward the energy signature, knowing they're heading into a battle they might not survive. The episode ends with the two groups converging, the sky darkening as the fighters approach the battlefield. Episode 33. The Z fighters arrive at the battlefield. Piccolo, Gohan, Krillin, Tien, Chiaotzu, and Yamcha. They stand together, facing Vegeta and Nappa across a barren wasteland. The two Saiyans look at them with mild interest, surprised that anyone would dare to face them. Vegeta uses his scouter to check their power levels, noting that they're higher than expected. But still far too weak to matter, Nappa laughs, calling them insects. He asks Vegeta if he can have some fun before they get serious. Vegeta waves him off dismissively, telling him to do whatever he wants as long as he doesn't take too long. They're here for the Dragon Balls, not to play with weaklings. But if the Earth's fighters want to die first, Nappa is happy to oblige. The tension in this scene is incredible. The Z fighters know they're outmatched, but they don't back down. They spread out, taking defensive positions, preparing for a battle they've trained months to survive. Gohan is shaking, barely able to stand. Piccolo stays close to him, ready to protect him if things go wrong. The episode ends with both sides staring at each other, the moment before violence erupts. Episode 34. The battle begins with the Cybermen, small green creatures that Nappa plants in the ground. They grow rapidly, emerging as fully formed warriors with power levels equal to Raditz. Nappa explains that these are disposable soldiers, creatures bred for combat. He plants 6 of them, 1 for each of the Z fighters. If they can't even handle the Cybermen, they're not worth fighting directly. The Cybermen attack immediately, moving faster than most of the Z fighters expected. The battle is chaotic, with multiple fights happening simultaneously. Tien faces one and destroys it with a single powerful blast. Krillin and Piccolo work together to eliminate another. The fights are short, brutal, and efficient. The Z fighters are holding their own, but they're using a lot of energy to do it. Yamcha steps forward to fight the next Cyberman. He's confident, ready to prove himself. The fight goes well at first. Yamcha dodges its attacks, counters with his own, and seems to be winning. But then the Cyberman grabs him from behind, wrapping its arms around his chest. Yamcha struggles, trying to break free. The Cyberman begins to glow, its body swelling with energy. Krillin screams at Yamcha to get away, but it's too late. Episode 35. The Cyberman self-destructs, creating a massive explosion that kills both itself and Yamcha instantly. The blast tears through the battlefield, leaving a crater where Yamcha was standing. His body lies broken in the dirt, lifeless. The other Z fighters stare in shock, unable to process what just happened. Yamcha is dead, the first of them to fall, but certainly not the last. Krillin screams in rage and obliterates the remaining Cybermen with a single attack. His grief transforms into anger, and for a moment, he's stronger than he's ever been. But Nappa just laughs. He finds the whole situation amusing. Humans killing themselves for nothing. He steps forward, cracking his knuckles, ready to finish what the Cybermen started. The battle shifts dramatically. Nappa is on a completely different level. He moves too fast for most of the Z fighters to track. His punches shatter bones. His energy attacks carve through the landscape. Chiaotzu tries to help Tien, attacking Nappa from behind, but he's swatted aside like an insect. Tien catches him, but they're both injured. The situation is falling apart faster than anyone anticipated. Episode 36. Chiaotzu makes a desperate decision. He latches onto Nappa's back, wrapping his arms around the Saiyan's neck. Tien realizes what he's about to do and begs him to stop. But Chiaotzu doesn't listen. He's going to self-destruct, the same way the Cyberman did to Yamcha. If he can take Nappa with him, the sacrifice will be worth it. The explosion is enormous, far larger than the Cyberman's. The entire battlefield is engulfed in smoke and fire. When the dust clears, Chiaotzu is gone. His body has been completely destroyed by the blast. But Nappa is still standing, barely scratched. His armor is cracked, and he's annoyed. But he's alive. Chiaotzu died for nothing. Tien collapses to his knees, grief overwhelming him. Chiaotzu was his closest friend, the one person who had been with him since the beginning. And now he's gone, erased from existence in a failed attempt to save everyone. The episode lingers on Tien's face, showing his despair, his helplessness. He's always been strong, always been disciplined, but none of it matters now. Episode 37. Nappa continues his assault, targeting Tien next. He moves with terrifying speed, landing blow after blow. Tien tries to fight back, but his body is too damaged. He's already exhausted from the earlier battles, and Chiaotzu's death has broken something inside him. He knows he's about to die, but he refuses to give up. He gathers his energy for one final attack, a tri-beam aimed directly at Nappa. The blast is powerful, carving a massive crater in the ground. Nappa is pushed back, forced to defend himself for the first time in the battle. But when the smoke clears, he's still standing, and Tien has used up all his energy. He collapses, unconscious, barely clinging to life. Nappa walks toward him, ready to finish him off. Piccolo steps in, blocking Nappa's path. He tells the others to fall back to protect Gohan. He'll hold Nappa off as long as he can. The episode focuses on Piccolo's resolve. He knows he can't win, but he can buy time. And time is the only thing they have left. Goku is still on his way. If they can just survive long enough, he might arrive in time to save them. Episode 38. The battle continues, but the Z fighters are losing ground. Krillin and Gohan try to work together, combining their attacks, but Nappa is too strong. He takes everything they throw at him and shrugs it off. Vegeta watches from a distance, arms crossed, completely bored. This isn't a fight, it's an extermination. Piccolo realizes that their only chance is to attack Vegeta directly. If they can force him to get serious, Nappa might back off. But Vegeta sees through the plan immediately. He tells Nappa to finish things quickly. He's tired of waiting. They came to Earth for the Dragon Balls, not to play with weaklings all day. Nappa charges at Gohan, moving faster than the boy can react. Gohan freezes, unable to move, his fear taking over. Piccolo sees what's about to happen and makes a split-second decision. He throws himself in front of Gohan, taking the full force of Nappa's attack. The blast tears through Piccolo's chest and he collapses to the ground, dying. Episode 39. Piccolo's final words are to Gohan. He tells the boy not to cry, to stay strong. He admits, for the first time, that he's proud of him. Training Gohan changed something in Piccolo, made him realize that he didn't have to be the Demon King's son. He could be something else. Someone better. And then he dies, his body fading as Kami dies, simultaneously back at the lookout. Gohan screams, his grief triggering a massive surge of power. His energy explodes outward, and for a moment he's stronger than anyone on the battlefield. He charges at Nappa in a blind rage, landing several solid hits before his power fades. Nappa is stunned, hurt for the first time in the battle. But Gohan's outburst doesn't last. He collapses, exhausted, and Nappa recovers quickly. The situation is hopeless. Piccolo is dead, Yamcha is dead, Chiaotzu is dead, Tien is unconscious and dying. Only Krillin and Gohan are left, and they're both too weak to continue fighting. Nappa raises his hand, ready to kill them both with a single blast. But then, a new energy appears on the battlefield. Someone incredibly powerful, moving faster than anyone has ever moved before. Episode 40. Goku arrives just in time, catching Nappa's attack in midair and deflecting it harmlessly into the sky. He's traveled the entire length of Snake Way in record time, brought back to life by the Dragon Balls and teleported to the battlefield. He stands between Nappa and the others, his expression calm but serious. He looks at his fallen friends, at Gohan's injuries, at the devastation around him. Nappa is confused. His scouter is going haywire, unable to accurately measure Goku's power level. Vegeta is watching intently, realizing that this is the low-class Saiyan he's heard about, the one who killed Raditz, the one who trained with King Kai. He tells Nappa to be careful. This one is different. Goku asks Krillin what happened. Krillin explains everything: the Saibamen, Yamcha's death, Chiaotzu's sacrifice, Piccolo's final stand. With each name, Goku's expression hardens. He tells Krillin and Gohan to step back. He'll handle this alone. The episode ends with Goku facing Nappa, his power radiating outward, shaking the ground beneath them. Episode 41. The fight between Goku and Nappa is shockingly one-sided. Goku is faster, stronger, and more skilled. He dodges every attack Nappa throws at him, countering with precise strikes that send the massive Saiyan flying. Nappa can't believe what's happening. He's being humiliated by someone with a lower-class bloodline. It doesn't make sense. Vegeta watches, his interest turning to unease. Goku's power is far beyond what he expected. If Nappa can't handle him, then Vegeta will have to fight himself. And for the first time in years, he's not certain he'll win. He calls out to Nappa, telling him to stop playing around and finish this, but Nappa is already trying his hardest. He's just not strong enough. Goku breaks both of Nappa's arms and legs with 4 quick strikes, leaving him helpless on the ground. Nappa begs Vegeta for help, asking him to use a Senzu bean to heal him. But Vegeta has no interest in saving someone who lost. He tells Nappa he's useless, a disappointment to the Saiyan race. And then, without hesitation, he throws Nappa into the air and obliterates him with a single energy blast. Episode 42. Vegeta steps forward, facing Goku alone. He's calm, analytical, already planning how to win. He comments on Goku's power, acknowledging that it's impressive for someone of his class. But he also notes that Goku is suppressing his true strength. He can sense it. Goku is holding back, probably saving energy for a longer fight. Goku confirms this, explaining that he doesn't want to waste energy unnecessarily. He's learned to control his power carefully, using only what he needs for each moment. Vegeta finds this amusing. He's never bothered with such restraint. Power is meant to be unleashed, not hoarded. The two Saiyans begin to circle each other, neither willing to make the first move. Krillin and Gohan watch from a distance, too injured to help. They can feel the energy radiating from both fighters, and it's terrifying. Vegeta alone is stronger than Nappa ever was. If Goku loses, there's no one left to stop him. The Dragon Balls will be gone. The Earth will be destroyed. Everything they fought for will mean nothing. Episode 43. The battle begins in earnest. Goku and Vegeta exchange blows at incredible speed, their movements creating shockwaves that crack the ground beneath them. They're evenly matched at first, each landing hits, each taking damage. But Vegeta is slowly gaining the upper hand. He's more experienced, more ruthless, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Goku realizes he needs to use the Kaio-Ken. It's risky, but he doesn't have a choice. He activates the technique, his body glowing with a red aura as his power doubles. The sudden increase catches Vegeta off guard. Goku lands several devastating hits, pushing Vegeta back for the first time in the fight. But Vegeta recovers quickly, adapting to Goku's new speed. The two continue fighting, their battle tearing across the landscape. Mountains crumble under the force of their attacks. The sky darkens with smoke and debris. It's a fight on a scale that Earth has never witnessed before. And it's only getting started. Episode 44. Vegeta grows frustrated. He's supposed to be the elite, the prince of all Saiyans, and yet this low-class warrior is matching him blow for blow. It's humiliating. He decides to end the fight quickly by transforming into a Great Ape. But to do that, he needs a full moon, and Earth's moon was destroyed during the original Dragon Ball series. No problem, Vegeta says. He'll create an artificial moon using a power ball, a concentrated sphere of blood's waves that mimics the full moon's effect on Saiyans. He forms the ball and throws it into the sky, where it hovers like a second sun. Goku realizes what's happening and tries to destroy it, but Vegeta blocks him. It's too late. The transformation has already begun. Vegeta's body swells. growing larger and more monstrous with each passing second. His armor shatters. His power multiplies tenfold. Within moments, he's a massive ape towering over the battlefield, his energy shaking the entire planet. Goku stares up at him, realizing how much danger he's in. The Kaio-Ken might not be enough anymore. Episode 45. Great Ape Vegeta is nearly unstoppable. His attacks are slower but overwhelmingly powerful. A single stomp creates craters. His energy blasts obliterate mountains. Goku tries to fight back using the Kaio-Ken times 3 to match Vegeta's increased power, but the strain on his body is immense. His muscles are tearing. His bones are cracking. He can't keep this up for much longer. Krillin and Gohan try to help, attacking Vegeta from different angles, hoping to distract him. But Vegeta barely notices them. He swats Krillin aside, sending him crashing into a mountainside. Gohan manages to dodge, but only barely. The boy is terrified, exhausted, and running on pure adrenaline. He knows they're losing. He knows his father is about to die. Goku forms a spirit bomb, gathering energy from the earth itself. It takes time, too much time, but he has no other options. Vegeta sees what he's doing and charges, trying to crush him before the attack is complete. Goku finishes just in time, throwing the massive sphere of energy directly at the Great Ape. The explosion is blinding, consuming everything in light. Episode 46. When the dust clears, Vegeta has been forced out of his Great Ape form. The spirit bomb didn't kill him, but it severely weakened him. He's back to his normal size, his armor destroyed, his body covered in injuries, but he's still standing, still able to fight. And now he's furious. He's been pushed to the brink by a low-class Saiyan, and he refuses to accept it. Goku is in worse shape. The Kaio-Ken times 3 damaged his body more than he anticipated. He can barely move, let alone fight. Vegeta approaches slowly, savoring the moment. He's going to kill Goku, then the others, then destroy the planet. He's done with this world. But before he can finish Goku, Gohan attacks. The boy has been gathering his courage, building up his energy, waiting for the right moment. He charges at Vegeta with everything he has left, landing a solid hit that sends the Saiyan Prince flying. Vegeta is shocked. A child just hurt him. A half-breed with no training just pushed him back. Episode 47. The battle becomes a chaotic scramble. Gohan, Krillin, and the barely conscious Goku all work together, attacking Vegeta from different angles. Vegeta is injured, exhausted, and running out of options. He tries to retreat, calling for his space pod, but Krillin cuts him off. The three of them are determined to finish this, no matter what it costs. Vegeta realizes he's in serious danger. For the first time in his life, he's genuinely afraid of dying. He begs them to let him go, promising he'll never return to Earth. It's a humiliating moment for someone who has always defined himself by his pride. Goku, barely conscious, tells Krillin to let him leave. He believes Vegeta deserves a chance to live, to grow stronger, to face them again someday on equal terms. Krillin is furious. Vegeta killed their friends. He destroyed cities. He nearly ended the world. And Goku wants to let him go. But Goku insists, and Krillin, against his better judgment, lowers his weapon. Vegeta crawls into his space pod and launches himself into space, disappearing into the stars. The battle is over. They've won, but the cost was almost everything. Episode 48. The aftermath of the battle is somber. The Z-Fighters gather the bodies of their fallen friends, Yamcha, Tien, Chiaotzu, and Piccolo. Bulma arrives with medical supplies, treating Goku's injuries as best she can. They need the Dragon Balls to bring everyone back, but there's a problem. Piccolo's death means Kami is also dead, and without Kami, the Dragon Balls no longer exist. Krillin suggests they use Namek's Dragon Balls instead. Piccolo mentioned once that he came from another planet, a world of Namekians. If there are others like him, they might have their own set of Dragon Balls. It's a desperate plan, but it's their only option. Mr. Popo confirms that he knows how to reach Namek. He has an old spaceship that Kami used to arrive on Earth centuries ago. The group decides to go. Bulma will pilot the ship. Gohan and Krillin will come along to help search for the Dragon Balls. Goku will stay behind to recover from his injuries. The episode ends with them preparing for the journey, unsure of what they'll find on Namek, but knowing they have no choice. Their friends are dead, and only the Dragon Balls can bring them back. Episode 49. The spaceship launches, leaving Earth behind. Bulma, Gohan, and Krillin are on their way to Namek, a journey that will take weeks or even months, depending on the ship's speed. Meanwhile, Vegeta is recovering in his own space pod, drifting through the cosmos, humiliated by his defeat, but already planning his return. He won't let Goku's mercy go to waste. Next time, he'll be stronger. Next time, he'll win. Goku is taken to the hospital, where doctors are stunned by the extent of his injuries. They've never seen anyone survive the kind of damage his body has taken. But Saiyans are different. They grow stronger after recovering from near-death experiences, a trait that will define much of what comes next. Goku lies in his hospital bed, unconscious but alive, his body slowly healing. The episode shifts to Frieza, the galactic tyrant who controls Vegeta and countless other worlds. He's heard about the battle on Earth, about the Dragon Balls that can grant any wish. He's intrigued. Immortality has always been just out of reach, but with the Dragon Balls, he could have it. He orders his men to set a course for Namek. If the Dragon Balls are there, he'll take them. And if anyone tries to stop him, he'll destroy them. Episode 50. The journey to Namek begins in earnest. Bulma, Gohan, and Krillin are cramped inside the small spaceship, trying to pass the time as days turn into weeks. The ship's interior is outdated, barely functional, but it's all they have. Gohan spends his time training in the limited space, doing push-ups and practicing his energy control. Krillin meditates, trying to prepare mentally for whatever they'll face on Namek. Bulma works on improving the ship's systems, tweaking the engines to go faster. She's nervous about the journey, about what they'll find when they arrive. She's not a fighter, and she knows that if they run into trouble, she won't be able to defend herself. But she's also the only one who can pilot the ship, so she doesn't have a choice. She's going because her friends need her. The episode includes several filler scenes of their daily life on the ship. They eat together, argue over small things, and try to keep their spirits up. It's a quiet, almost mundane stretch of the story, a brief respite before everything escalates again. The tone is reflective, focusing on the bonds between the characters rather than action or spectacle. Episode 51. Back on Earth, Goku is still recovering. He wakes up occasionally, but he's too weak to move. The doctors keep him sedated, worried that he'll hurt himself if he tries to train too soon. But Goku, being Goku, doesn't listen. The moment he's strong enough to stand, he starts exercising in his hospital room, ignoring the doctor's protests. The episode also shows the daily life of Earth's remaining defenders. Tien, Yamcha, Chiaotzu, and Piccolo are all dead, their spirits residing in the afterlife. King Yemma, the Judge of Souls, is processing them, trying to figure out where they belong. Piccolo is sent to hell by default because of his father's crimes, though he insists he's changed. The others are sent to King Kai's planet to train, just like Goku did. This creates an interesting parallel. The living fighters are traveling to Namek to find the Dragon Balls. The dead fighters are training in the afterlife to become stronger. Both groups are preparing for the same goal, defeating whatever comes next. The episode ends with Yamcha, Tien, and Chiaotzu arriving on King Kai's planet, ready to begin their training under the eccentric deity. Episode 52. Bulma, Gohan, and Krillin finally arrive on Namek. The planet is beautiful, with green skies, blue grass, and 3 suns hanging in the sky. It's peaceful, almost serene, but there's an underlying tension. The moment they step out of the ship, they sense multiple powerful energies scattered across the planet. Something is already happening here. They're not the only ones looking for the Dragon Balls. They decide to split up to search for Namekian villages. Krillin and Gohan fly off together while Bulma stays with the ship, using a radar to track the Dragon Balls. But before they get far, they encounter a horrifying scene. A Namekian village has been destroyed. Buildings are burned. Bodies are scattered across the ground. And standing in the center of the carnage are two of Frieza's soldiers holding a Dragon Ball. Krillin and Gohan hide, watching as the soldiers fly away. They realize immediately that Frieza's forces are here, collecting the Dragon Balls for their master. This complicates everything. They're not just racing against time anymore. They're racing against one of the most powerful beings in the universe. The episode ends with them realizing just how dangerous this mission has become. Episode 53. Vegeta, who has also arrived on Namek, attacks one of Frieza's outposts. He's healed from his injuries and grown significantly stronger, just as Saiyans do after recovering from near death. He's determined to get the Dragon Balls before Frieza does, to wish for immortality and finally become strong enough to overthrow his master. He moves through Frieza's soldiers like a force of nature, killing dozens without hesitation. Frieza is on Namek as well, along with his elite soldiers, Zarbon, Dodoria, and the Ginyu force. They're searching for the Dragon Balls systematically, destroying villages that refuse to cooperate. Frieza himself doesn't fight. He doesn't need to. His reputation alone is enough to terrify most opponents into submission. The few who resist are killed instantly, their power levels meaningless against someone of Frieza's caliber. Krillin and Gohan witness one of these attacks from a distance. They see Frieza's men destroying another village, killing the Namekians who try to protect their Dragon Ball. They want to help, but they know they're too weak. If they reveal themselves, they'll die. So they stay hidden, watching in horror, unable to do anything but survive. Episode 54. Gohan can't take it anymore. He sees a Namekian child about to be killed and rushes in to save him, attacking Frieza's soldier from behind. The attack works, catching the soldier off guard and giving the child time to escape. But now Gohan has revealed himself, and more soldiers are coming. Krillin joins the fight, helping Gohan hold them off long enough to retreat. They manage to escape, taking the Namekian child with them. The boy is terrified but grateful. He tells them his name is Dende, and he's one of the few survivors from his village. He knows where one of the Dragon Balls is hidden, a secret that his people kept from Frieza. He offers to take Gohan and Krillin there, hoping they can use the Dragon Ball to wish his people back to life. The episode focuses on the growing friendship between Gohan and Dende. They're close in age, and both have been forced into situations far beyond their control. Dende admires Gohan's courage, and Gohan feels responsible for protecting him. It's a small moment of warmth in an increasingly dark story. Episode 55. Krillin, Gohan, and Dende travel to the hiding spot where the Dragon Ball is kept. It's buried deep underwater, in a lake hidden by mountains. They dive down, searching through the murky water until they find it glowing faintly at the bottom. Krillin grabs it, and they surface, excited to have secured one of the 7 Dragon Balls. But their celebration is short-lived. Vegeta is waiting for them on the shore. Vegeta demands they hand over the Dragon Ball. Krillin and Gohan are terrified. They're no match for Vegeta, not even close. But before Vegeta can take the Dragon Ball by force, he senses something approaching. It's Zarbon, one of Frieza's elite soldiers, flying toward them at incredible speed. Vegeta tells Krillin and Gohan to run, then turns to face Zarbon alone. The fight between Vegeta and Zarbon is brutal. Zarbon is stronger than Vegeta expected, and he has the ability to transform into a monstrous form that multiplies his power. The transformation is grotesque, all bulk and muscle and spikes, completely unlike Vegeta's Great Ape form. Zarbon beats Vegeta mercilessly, leaving him broken and unconscious in the water. He then flies off, reporting to Frieza that Vegeta has been dealt with. Episode 56. Krillin and Gohan find Vegeta's body floating in the lake. He's barely alive, his injuries severe enough that he'll die without help. They face a difficult choice. Vegeta is their enemy. He killed their friends. He tried to destroy Earth, but he's also the only one strong enough to fight Frieza's forces. If they let him die, they lose their best chance of surviving long enough to collect all 7 Dragon Balls. They decide to save him, taking him to a Namekian village where the planet's elder, Guru, lives. Guru is ancient and enormous, a Namekian who has lived for centuries and possesses incredible wisdom. He heals Vegeta, not because he trusts him, but because he senses that Vegeta's survival is necessary for what's coming. Vegeta wakes up, stronger than before, and immediately flies off to find Frieza. Guru also unlocks Gohan and Krillin's hidden potential, a technique that releases dormant power within them. The process is quick and painless, but the results are dramatic. Both of them feel their energy surge, their bodies becoming far stronger than they were just moments before. It's not enough to match Frieza, but it's enough to make a difference. Episode 57. Vegeta confronts Zarbon again, this time with his newfound strength. The fight is completely one-sided. Vegeta dominates, landing hit after hit, humiliating Zarbon the same way Zarbon humiliated him before. Saiyan transforms again. But it doesn't matter. Vegeta is too strong now. He kills Zarbon with a single blast, leaving his body to sink into the ocean. With Zarbon dead, Vegeta begins hunting for the Dragon Balls in earnest. He knows Frieza has most of them already, so he decides to steal them from Frieza's ship. It's a bold plan, borderline suicidal, but Vegeta is confident. He sneaks into the ship, finds the Dragon Balls and takes them. By the time Frieza realizes what happened, Vegeta is already gone. But Vegeta can't use the Dragon Balls yet. He needs all 7 to summon the dragon, and he only has 5. The remaining 2 are still hidden somewhere on Namek. He flies off to search for them, knowing that Frieza is now actively hunting him. The episode ends with both Vegeta and Frieza racing to find the final Dragon Balls, each knowing that the first to collect all 7 will win. Episode 58. Frieza realizes he's running out of time. He calls in the Ginyu Force, his most elite team of soldiers. They're 5 of the strongest fighters in the universe, handpicked by Frieza for their power and loyalty. Their arrival on Namek is dramatic, with each member posing and introducing themselves in ridiculous, over-the-top ways. They're powerful, but they're also absurdly theatrical. The Ginyu Force consists of Captain Ginyu, the leader, and his 4 subordinates Recoome, Berter, Geese, and Guldo. Each of them has a unique fighting style and personality. Recoome is a brawler who loves destruction, Berter is the fastest in the universe, or so he claims, Geese is cocky and loud, Guldo is small and weak but has the ability to stop time, and Captain Ginyu is the strongest of them all, with a power level that dwarfs everyone else on Namek. They split up to search for the Dragon Balls and Vegeta. The episode ends with the Ginyu Force spreading across the planet, each member heading in a different direction. The sense of dread is palpable. The Z-Fighters have been struggling against Frieza's weaker soldiers. The Ginyu Force is on an entirely different level. Episode 59. Krillin, Gohan, and Vegeta are forced into an uneasy alliance. They all know that none of them can survive the Ginyu Force alone. Vegeta is the strongest, but even he admits that he can't fight all 5 at once. Their only chance is to work together, delay the Ginyu Force long enough to gather the Dragon Balls, and make a wish before Frieza gets them. The first member of the Ginyu Force they encounter is Guldo. He's weak physically, but his time-stopping ability makes him nearly impossible to fight. He freezes time repeatedly, attacking when no one can move. Gohan and Krillin struggle to land a single hit. Vegeta watches for a moment, analyzing Guldo's pattern, then steps in and decapitates him with a single energy blast. Guldo is dead before he realizes what happened. The remaining Ginyu Force members are furious. Recoome volunteers to fight next. He faces Vegeta, Gohan, and Krillin simultaneously, laughing the entire time. He's monstrously strong, shrugging off their attacks like they're nothing. He beats Vegeta so badly that the Saiyan Prince is left unconscious in the dirt. Then he turns his attention to Gohan and Krillin. Episode 60. Recoome is toying with them. He could kill them instantly, but he's having too much fun. He lets them attack, laughs at their efforts, and counters with brutal strikes that break bones. Gohan tries desperately to protect Krillin, but he's outmatched. Just when it seems like they're about to die, a new energy signature appears. It's Goku. Goku has finally arrived on Namek. He's fully healed from his injuries and has been training in a gravity chamber during his journey through space. His power has increased dramatically, far beyond what anyone expected. He steps onto the battlefield, sees his friends injured and broken, and his expression hardens. He tells them to step back. He'll handle this. Recoome charges at Goku with his full strength, confident that this will be another easy victory. But Goku doesn't move. He waits until Recoome is right in front of him, then strikes once, a single elbow to the stomach. Recoome's eyes go wide. He coughs blood, then collapses, completely unconscious. The fight is over in seconds. The Ginyu Force stares in shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. Episode 61. Berter and Jaice attack together, trying to overwhelm Goku with speed. Berter claims to be the fastest in the universe, but Goku proves him wrong immediately. He moves faster than Berter can see, appearing behind him, striking him down before he can react. Jaice tries to retreat, but Goku stops him, knocking him unconscious with a single blow. 3 members of the Ginyu Force are defeated in a matter of minutes. Captain Ginyu steps forward, intrigued. Goku's power level is impressive, far higher than anyone on Namek should be. Ginyu uses his scouter to measure it, and the number shocks him. Goku is as strong as he is, possibly stronger. This is the first real challenge Ginyu has faced in years. He's excited, but before they can fight, Ginyu makes a decision. He takes the Dragon Balls and flies back to Frieza, leaving Goku behind. His mission is to deliver the Dragon Balls, not to have fun fighting. He tells Goku they'll meet again soon, and then he's gone. Goku is frustrated but understands. He heals his friends with Senzu beans, preparing them for what's coming next. Episode 62. Frieza now has all 7 Dragon Balls. He gathers them together, ready to summon the dragon and wish for immortality. But there's a problem. The Dragon Balls aren't activating. Frieza doesn't know the password, the specific phrase in the Namekian language required to summon the dragon. He's furious, but there's nothing he can do. He needs a Namekian to make the wish for him. Goku, Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan rush to Frieza's location, hoping to stop him before he figures out the password. When they arrive, they find Frieza standing over the Dragon Balls, Ginyu beside him, and a small Namekian child trembling nearby. It's Dende. Frieza has captured him, planning to force him to summon the dragon. But before Frieza can make Dende comply, Guru, the Namekian elder, uses his telepathy to tell Dende the password. Dende speaks the words aloud, but instead of wishing for Frieza's immortality, he wishes for Piccolo to be brought back to life. The dragon grants the wish immediately, and Piccolo is revived back on Earth. The Dragon Balls turn to stone, and Frieza is left with nothing. Episode 63. Frieza is beyond furious. He's been outsmarted by a child, and his chance at immortality is gone. He decides to take his anger out on everyone nearby, starting with Dende. But Gohan steps in, protecting the boy, taking Frieza's attack himself. The blast nearly kills Gohan, but he survives, barely. Captain Ginyu decides this is the perfect time to fight Goku. The two face off, their power levels roughly equal. Ginyu is thrilled, finally meeting an opponent who can match him. But as the fight progresses, he realizes something terrible. Goku is holding back. Even at full power, Ginyu is struggling, and Goku hasn't used his full strength yet. Ginyu makes a desperate decision. He uses his ultimate technique, the body change. It allows him to swap bodies with anyone, stealing their strength while trapping them in his weaker form. He activates the technique, and before Goku can react, they switch. Ginyu is now in Goku's body, and Goku is trapped in Ginyu's. Episode 64. Ginyu in Goku's body is powerful, but he doesn't know how to use Goku's techniques or control his energy properly. He's strong but clumsy, unable to access the full potential of the body he's stolen. Goku, meanwhile, is stuck in Ginyu's broken, battered form, barely able to move. Vegeta sees what happened and attacks Ginyu, trying to destroy him before he can master Goku's body. Krillin and Gohan join in, and together they manage to weaken Ginyu significantly. Ginyu realizes he's losing and tries to use the body change again, this time targeting Vegeta. But Goku, still in Ginyu's body, throws a frog in the way. Ginyu swaps bodies with the frog, trapping himself in the small creature's form. Goku gets his body back, and the group breathes a sigh of relief. But the battle isn't over. Frieza is still there, and he's no longer amused. He's going to kill them all, slowly and painfully, starting with the weakest. The episode ends with Frieza stepping forward, his power radiating outward, shaking the entire planet. Episode 65. Piccolo arrives on Namek, having been revived by the Dragon Balls. He flies directly to the battlefield, sensing the energy of his friends. When he arrives, he sees Frieza standing over them, ready to kill. Piccolo steps between them, telling Frieza that if he wants to hurt anyone, he'll have to go through him first. Frieza is intrigued. He's heard of Piccolo, the Namekian who fought the Saiyans on Earth, but he's not impressed. Piccolo might be strong for a Namekian, but he's nowhere near Frieza's level. Or so Frieza thinks. The truth is that Piccolo has fused with another Namekian named Nail, a warrior who was guarding Guru. The fusion increased Piccolo's power dramatically, making him far stronger than he was before. The fight between Piccolo and Frieza is surprisingly even at first. Piccolo holds his own, landing several solid hits. Frieza is surprised, even impressed, but then he stops holding back. He reveals that he's only been using a fraction of his power. He transforms, his body shifting into a new, more powerful form. And just like that, the fight turns. Piccolo is outmatched again. Episode 66. Frieza's first transformation makes him faster, stronger, and far more dangerous. He beats Piccolo mercilessly, breaking bones, tearing through his defenses. Gohan and Krillin try to help, attacking from different angles, but Frieza swats them aside like insects. Even Vegeta is hesitant to step in, knowing that he's no match for Frieza in this form. Goku is still recovering from the body swap with Ginyu. He's exhausted, his energy depleted, and he needs time to heal. He tells the others to hold Frieza off as long as they can while he regains his strength. It's a desperate plan, but they don't have a choice. They attack together, combining their efforts, but Frieza is too strong. He's toying with them, enjoying their fear. Then Frieza transforms again. His second form is even more terrifying, bulkier and more alien. His horns elongate. His power multiplies again. The ground cracks beneath him just from the pressure of his energy. The Z-Fighters realize they're fighting a losing battle. Frieza has multiple transformations, each one stronger than the last. Even if they survive this form, there could be more. They're running out of time. Episode 67. Vegeta makes a desperate gamble. He tells Krillin to nearly kill him so that he can recover and become stronger, the way Saiyans do after near-death experiences. Krillin is horrified by the idea, but Vegeta insists it's their only chance. Krillin reluctantly fires a blast that nearly kills Vegeta, leaving him unconscious and bleeding. Dende heals Vegeta immediately after, bringing him back from the brink of death. Vegeta wakes up, his power surging beyond anything he's felt before. He believes he's finally achieved it, the legendary Super Saiyan transformation. He confronts Frieza with newfound confidence, declaring that the tyrant's reign is over. But Vegeta is wrong. He's stronger, yes, but he's not a Super Saiyan. And he's still no match for Frieza. Frieza humors him for a moment, letting Vegeta attack, pretending to be hurt. Then he reveals his third and final form. The transformation is horrifying. Frieza shrinks, becoming sleeker, more refined. His power level skyrockets, and Vegeta realizes, too late, that he's made a terrible mistake. Episode 68. Frieza in his final form is faster than Vegeta can track. He moves behind him, strikes him once, and Vegeta collapses, A hole blasted through his chest. Vegeta is dying, and he knows it. He looks up at Goku, who has finally recovered and is ready to fight. Vegeta tells him everything. How Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta, how he enslaved the Saiyans, how he killed Vegeta's father and everyone he ever knew. Vegeta begs Goku to avenge the Saiyan race. He admits that he's never been as strong as Goku, never been the warrior he thought he was. But maybe Goku can be. Maybe Goku is the legendary Super Saiyan. And then Vegeta dies, his body going still, his eyes closing. Goku is silent for a moment, processing everything Vegeta said. Then he turns to Frieza, and for the first time in the series, Goku is truly angry. Episode 69. The battle between Goku and Frieza begins. It's faster, more intense, and more brutal than anything seen before. They're both holding back, testing each other, trying to find weaknesses. Goku uses the Kaio-Ken, pushing his power higher and higher. Frieza matches him effortlessly, not even using his full strength yet. They exchange blows across the planet. Mountains are leveled, the ocean evaporates from the heat of their energy. The very ground beneath them cracks and crumbles. It's a battle that will be remembered for decades. Two of the strongest beings in the universe clashing with everything they have. But Goku realizes something terrible. Even with the Kaio-Ken times 20, he's only just matching Frieza's casual power. Frieza is still holding back, fighting with maybe 50% of his strength. And Goku is already at his limit. If Frieza decides to go all out, Goku will lose. The episode ends with Goku realizing he needs a new plan. Something beyond the Kaio-Ken. Something he's never done before. Episode 70. Goku decides to use the Spirit Bomb again, this time gathering energy from the entire planet of Namek. He tells Piccolo, Gohan, and Krillin to distract Frieza while he charges the attack. They attack together, doing everything they can to keep Frieza's attention away from Goku. It works, but barely. Frieza is growing impatient, ready to kill them all. Goku finishes charging the Spirit Bomb. It's massive, the largest he's ever created, filled with the life force of an entire planet. He throws it at Frieza with all his strength. The explosion is catastrophic, consuming everything in light. When the dust clears, Frieza is gone. The Spirit Bomb worked. He's dead. Or so they think. Moments later, Frieza rises from the crater, injured but alive. He's furious, humiliated and ready to destroy everything. He fires a blast at Krillin, lifting him into the air and exploding him from the inside out. Krillin dies instantly, his body disappearing. Goku watches in horror, unable to move, unable to comprehend what just happened. And then something inside Goku breaks. His grief turns to rage, his rage turns to power, and his power explodes outward in a blinding flash of gold. His hair turns yellow, his eyes turn green, his aura ignites like a star. Goku has finally transformed. He is the Super Saiyan. Episode 71. The transformation is unlike anything anyone has witnessed. Goku's power has multiplied 50 times over in an instant. The golden aura around him crackles with energy, distorting the air, making it difficult to even look at him directly. Frieza, for the first time in his life, feels genuine fear. He's heard the legends of the Super Saiyan, the warrior who appears once every 1,000 years to challenge the strongest in the universe. He always dismissed them as myths. But standing before Goku now, he realizes the legends were true. Piccolo, Gohan, and Bulma watch from a distance, too stunned to speak. They can feel Goku's energy from miles away, a presence so overwhelming it's almost suffocating. Gohan is crying, grieving for Krillin, but also feeling a strange sense of hope. His father has become something impossible, something beyond mortal limits. Perhaps they'll survive after all. Frieza attacks first, firing a barrage of energy blasts at Goku. Each one is powerful enough to destroy a mountain, but Goku doesn't dodge. He doesn't block, he simply stands there, letting the blasts hit him, and they do nothing. They explode against his body harmlessly, like raindrops hitting stone. Goku looks at Frieza with cold, unwavering eyes. He tells Frieza that he's going to pay for everything he's done. The fight shifts immediately. Goku is no longer struggling. He's dominating. Every punch lands with devastating force. Every kick sends Frieza flying across the landscape. Frieza tries to counter, tries to match Goku's speed and strength, but he can't. The Super Saiyan is simply too powerful. For the first time in decades, Frieza is losing. Episode 72. Frieza grows desperate. He unleashes his full power, no longer holding back even a fraction of his strength. The planet shakes under the pressure of his energy. The ground cracks open, revealing molten lava beneath. The sky turns dark with ash and smoke. Namek is beginning to tear itself apart from the sheer force of their battle. Frieza announces that he's using 100% of his power now, and Goku better be ready. But even at full power, Frieza is still losing. Goku is faster, stronger, and more skilled. The transformation hasn't just increased his power, it's sharpened his instincts, made him more efficient in every movement. He's not wasting energy, he's not showboating. He's simply fighting, and he's winning. Frieza realizes that he can't defeat Goku in a fair fight, so he decides to destroy the planet instead. If he can't win, he'll make sure no one survives. He fires a blast directly into Namek's core, destabilizing the planet's structure. The explosion begins deep underground, and it will take approximately 5 minutes for the chain reaction to reach the surface and obliterate everything. Goku is furious. He tells Frieza that destroying the planet is cowardly, that a true warrior would face his opponent directly. But Frieza doesn't care about honor, he cares about survival. And if he's going to die, he'll take everyone with him. The episode ends with the planet beginning to collapse, massive fissures opening across the landscape, and Goku realizing he has less than 5 minutes to finish the fight and escape. Episode 73. The battle continues even as the planet dies around them. Goku is holding back, trying to give Frieza a chance to surrender. He doesn't want to kill him. Despite everything Frieza has done, Goku still believes in mercy. But Frieza sees this as weakness. He pretends to give up, lowering his guard, asking for mercy. And when Goku turns his back, Frieza attacks from behind with a lethal energy blast. Goku dodges at the last second, but barely. He realizes that Frieza will never stop, never surrender. Mercy is wasted on someone like him. Goku powers up one final attack, a massive Kamehameha wave aimed directly at Frieza. Frieza tries to counter with his own blast, but it's not enough. Goku's attack overwhelms him, engulfing him completely, sending him crashing into the lava below. Frieza is defeated, his body broken and burning. But he's still alive, barely. He reaches out toward Goku, begging for help. Goku, despite everything, gives him some of his own energy to survive. He tells Frieza to leave Namek and never come back. But Frieza, in one final act of betrayal, uses that energy to attack Goku again. This time, Goku doesn't hesitate. He fires one last blast, and Frieza is consumed completely, his body disintegrating in the explosion. The planet has less than a minute left. Goku searches desperately for a way off Namek, but every spaceship has been destroyed in the battle. He finds Frieza's ship, the only one left intact, and tries to pilot it, but the controls are damaged and the ship won't start. The planet explodes, and Goku is caught in the blast. The screen goes white, and then silence. Episode 74. Back on Earth, Gohan, Piccolo, and Bulma have been wished back using the Namekian Dragon Balls. They're safe, standing in a field near Capsule Corp, but Goku is nowhere to be seen. They wait, hoping he'll appear, but he doesn't. Days pass, then weeks, and there's still no sign of him. Chi-Chi is devastated, believing that Goku sacrificed himself to save everyone. The Dragon Balls are used to wish back everyone who died on Namek, including Krillin. But when they ask Shenron to bring Goku back to Earth, the dragon refuses. Goku is alive somewhere in the universe, but he doesn't want to return yet. He's training, recovering, preparing for whatever comes next. The dragon can't force him to come home. This revelation confuses everyone. Why would Goku stay away? Why wouldn't he want to see his family, his friends? Gohan is heartbroken. He misses his father desperately, but deep down he understands. Goku is always chasing the next challenge, the next level of strength. And right now, being a Super Saiyan isn't enough. He needs to master this power to understand it fully before he can return. The episode shifts focus to a new threat. Frieza's father, King Cold, is traveling toward Earth with a rebuilt Frieza. The tyrant survived the explosion of Namek, though his body was horribly damaged. King Cold found him floating in space, nearly dead, and had him rebuilt with cybernetic enhancements. Frieza is now stronger than ever, and he's coming to Earth for revenge. Episode 75. Frieza and King Cold arrive on Earth, landing in a city and immediately beginning their attack. People run in terror as buildings explode and the sky fills with smoke. The Z-Fighters sense their energy and fly toward the battle, but they know they're outmatched. Without Goku, they don't stand a chance against Frieza, let alone his father. But before they arrive, something unexpected happens. A mysterious young man with purple hair and a sword appears out of nowhere. He's wearing a capsule corp jacket, and his energy is enormous, easily on par with a Super Saiyan. He approaches Frieza calmly, his sword drawn, and tells him that he's made a mistake coming to Earth. Frieza laughs, calling the boy arrogant. He fires a blast meant to disintegrate him instantly. But the young man slices the blast in half with his sword. Dispersing it harmlessly, he moves faster than Frieza can react, cutting him into pieces with a series of precise strikes. Frieza's cybernetic body falls apart, and before King Cold can intervene, the young man destroys him too. The entire battle lasts less than 2 minutes. The Z-Fighters arrive just in time to see the young man standing over Frieza's remains. He sheathes his sword and introduces himself. His name is Trunks, and he's from the future. He's come to warn them about a threat even greater than Frieza, something that will arrive in 3 years. He tells them to meet him at a specific location, where he'll explain everything. Then he waits, saying that Goku will arrive in 3 hours. Episode 76. Trunks was right. Exactly 3 hours later, a spaceship lands near the group. Goku steps out, alive and well. He's been training in space, traveling from planet to planet, honing his Super Saiyan transformation. He greets his friends warmly, hugs Gohan, and apologizes to Chi-Chi for being gone so long. But there's no time for a proper reunion. Trunks pulls Goku aside, away from the others, and reveals the truth. Trunks is Bulma and Vegeta's son from the future. In his timeline, Earth was destroyed by 2 androids created by Dr. Gero, a scientist who once worked for the Red Ribbon Army. These androids are more powerful than anything the Z-Fighters have faced before, and they killed everyone, including Goku. In Trunks' future, Goku died from a heart virus before the androids even appeared. That's why Trunks came back in time, to give Goku medicine that will cure the virus and to warn everyone about the androids. Goku is stunned. He can't imagine a threat strong enough to kill all of them, but Trunks insists it's true. The androids are unstoppable. Even Super Saiyans couldn't defeat them in his timeline. The only hope is to train for the next 3 years to become stronger than they ever thought possible. Trunks gives Goku the medicine, makes him promise to take it when the symptoms appear, and then returns to his time machine, disappearing into the future. The episode ends with Goku telling the others about the androids. They're shocked, terrified, but also determined. They have 3 years to prepare, 3 years to become strong enough to protect Earth from a threat even greater than Frieza. The training begins immediately. Episode 77. The next 3 years pass in a montage. Goku trains with Gohan and Piccolo, pushing them to unlock their own Super Saiyan transformations. Vegeta, furious that Goku surpassed him, isolates himself in a gravity chamber, training obsessively day and night. He's determined to become a Super Saiyan too, to prove that he's still the Prince of all Saiyans. Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin train together, knowing they'll never match the Saiyans' power, but refusing to give up. They've seen too much, lost too many friends, to sit on the sidelines. Even if they can't win, they'll fight. Chi-Chi tries to convince Goku to focus on Gohan's education instead of training, but Goku insists. If they don't prepare, there won't be a future for Gohan to have an education in. The episode also shows brief glimpses of Dr. Gero's laboratory, hidden in the mountains. He's been building the androids for years, ever since Goku destroyed the Red Ribbon Army. His hatred for Goku has consumed him, driving him to create the perfect killers. The androids are nearly complete, waiting in stasis, ready to wake and fulfill their purpose. Destroy Goku and anyone who stands with him. On the final day before the android's predicted arrival, Vegeta emerges from his training chamber. His body is scarred, his clothes torn, but his eyes are glowing gold. He's done it. He's achieved the Super Saiyan transformation through sheer force of will and pride. He doesn't celebrate. He simply looks at the sky and smirks, knowing that he's finally on Goku's level. Episode 78, the androids arrive exactly when Trunks predicted. They appear in a city, two humanoid figures with cold, emotionless eyes. One is a man, tall and stoic, dressed in formal clothes. The other is a woman, short and cocky with a mischievous smile. They're Android 19 and Android 20, though 20 is actually Dr. Gero himself, having converted his own body into an android to extend his life. The Z fighters arrive quickly, ready to fight. Goku steps forward, confident that his Super Saiyan form will be enough. But as the battle begins, something goes wrong. Goku feels a sharp pain in his chest, a tightness that makes it hard to breathe. It's the heart virus. It's starting. He tries to power through it, but his strength is fading rapidly. Android 19 takes advantage, beating Goku mercilessly, draining his energy with every touch. Vegeta arrives just in time, transforming into a Super Saiyan for the first time in front of the others. He tells Goku to stand down, to let him handle this. He's been waiting for this moment, the chance to prove that he's surpassed Goku. He fights Android 19 with brutal efficiency, tearing off the android's arms, then blasting him into oblivion. Dr. Gero retreats, fleeing to his laboratory in the mountains. The Z fighters pursue him, but Dr. Gero reaches his lab first. He activates two more androids, Android 17 and Android 18, hoping they'll save him. But the moment they wake, they turn on him. They're not interested in following orders. They kill Dr. Gero without hesitation, then activate a third android, Android 16, a massive red-haired warrior with immense power. The three androids leave the lab, heading toward the city, searching for Goku. Episode 79. The Z fighters face the new androids in the city. But these androids are different. They're stronger, faster, and far more dangerous than 19 or 20. Vegeta fights Android 18 and is shocked to find that she's matching him blow for blow. She's not even using her full power, and she's already pushing him to his limit. She breaks his arm with a single kick, then knocks him unconscious. Trunks tries to fight, but Android 17 defeats him easily. Piccolo fares slightly better, managing to hold his own for a short time, but he's outmatched. The androids aren't trying to kill them. They're toying with them, having fun. They view the Z fighters as entertainment, something to amuse them while they search for Goku. Android 16, however, is different. He doesn't attack. He simply watches, silent and expressionless. His only mission is to find and kill Goku. Everything else is irrelevant to him. He tells 17 and 18 to stop wasting time. They need to find Goku before he recovers from the virus. The three androids leave, flying off toward Goku's home, leaving the Z fighters broken and defeated in the city. Trunks is devastated. This is exactly what happened in his timeline. The androids are unstoppable, and now they're heading toward Goku. But Piccolo has an idea. There's someone who might be able to help. Someone who's been watching from the shadows. He flies to Kami's lookout, planning to fuse with Kami and unlock even greater power. It's a desperate gamble, but it's their only chance. Episode 80. Piccolo and Kami fuse, becoming a single being with the combined power and knowledge of both. The fusion makes Piccolo stronger than any of the Z fighters, possibly even stronger than the androids. He flies back to the battlefield, ready to face them. But when he arrives, he finds something unexpected. A new fighter has appeared, someone with energy unlike anything they've sensed before. His name is Cell, and he's a bio-android created by Dr. Gero using the DNA of the greatest fighters in the universe. He has Goku's cells, Vegeta's cells, Piccolo's cells, Frieza's cells, and more. He's a perfect fusion of their strengths, and his goal is simple: absorb androids 17 and 18 to achieve his perfect form. Only then will he be truly unstoppable. Cell attacks a nearby city, draining the life force of thousands of people to increase his power. The Z fighters sense the massacre and fly toward him, but they're too late. By the time they arrive, the city is empty, nothing but husks left behind. Cell reveals himself, explaining his plan and his origins. He came from the future, just like Trunks, using a time machine to travel back and complete his mission. Piccolo fights Cell, and the battle is intense. They're evenly matched, trading blows across the landscape. But Cell has a trick. He can regenerate from almost any injury thanks to Piccolo's cells. Even when Piccolo blasts off his arm, it grows back instantly. Cell realizes he can't win yet, not without absorbing the androids. He retreats, disappearing into the wilderness to hunt for 17 and 18. Episode 81. The Z fighters realize they're facing an impossible situation. They need to stop Cell from absorbing the androids, but they also need to defeat the androids themselves. And they need to do it all before Goku recovers from the virus. The pressure is overwhelming. Vegeta and Trunks enter the hyperbolic time chamber, a room in Kami's lookout where time moves differently. 1 day outside equals 1 year inside. They plan to train for a full year in a single day, emerging stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Cell is hunting the androids. He finds Android 17 first, attacking him in the middle of a highway. The battle is brutal, with Cell slowly gaining the upper hand. But before he can absorb 17, Android 16 intervenes. 16 is far stronger than Cell expected, and their fight shakes the entire region. Cell is forced to retreat again, frustrated but determined. Goku, still recovering from the heart virus, watches everything from his bed. He's taking the medicine Trunks gave him, and it's working, but slowly. He's weak, barely able to stand, and he hates it. He's always been the one to protect everyone, and now he's useless. Gohan sits with him, telling him it's okay, that the others will handle it. But Goku isn't convinced. He knows how dangerous Cell is. He knows they're running out of time. The episode ends with Vegeta and Trunks emerging from the hyperbolic time chamber. They've spent a full year training, and the results are staggering. Vegeta has surpassed the normal Super Saiyan form, achieving something stronger, something he calls Super Vegeta. His power has increased exponentially, and he's confident that he can defeat Cell easily now. Trunks has grown stronger too, though he's more cautious. He remembers what happened in his timeline when they underestimated the threat. Episode 82. Vegeta confronts Cell, and the battle is one-sided at first. Vegeta dominates, landing hit after hit, pushing Cell to his limits. Cell tries to regenerate, but Vegeta's attacks are too fast, too powerful. For a moment, it seems like Vegeta will win. But then Cell makes a desperate plea. He begs Vegeta to let him absorb Android 17, promising that he'll be a worthy opponent in his perfect form. Vegeta, ever prideful, agrees. He wants to fight Cell at his strongest, to prove once and for all that he's the most powerful warrior in the universe. He allows Cell to absorb 17, and the transformation begins immediately. Cell's body shifts, becoming sleeker, more humanoid. His power multiplies, and when the transformation is complete, he's far stronger than Vegeta anticipated. The fight resumes, but now Vegeta is losing. Semi-perfect Cell is faster, stronger, and more ruthless. He beats Vegeta brutally, breaking his pride along with his body. Trunks tries to intervene, but Cell knocks him aside easily. He's not interested in fighting weaklings. He wants Android 18. Once he absorbs her, he'll achieve his perfect form, and no one will be able to stop him. The Z fighters scramble to protect 18, but they're too late. Cell finds her hiding in a nearby city and absorbs her before anyone can stop him. The transformation into Perfect Cell is terrifying. His power becomes so immense that the entire planet trembles. He stands in the crater where the city used to be, calm and confident, knowing that he's achieved his ultimate form. He announces that he's going to hold a tournament in 10 days. Anyone who wants to challenge him is welcome to try, and if no one can defeat him, he'll destroy the Earth. Episode 83. Goku has finally recovered from the heart virus. He enters the hyperbolic time chamber with Gohan, planning to train together for a full year. But Goku's approach is different from Vegeta's. He doesn't push Gohan to exhaustion. Instead, he teaches him to stay calm, to master the Super Saiyan form so completely that it becomes natural. They spend months in the chamber, fighting, resting, and bonding as father and son. When they emerge, both of them are in their Super Saiyan forms, but they're relaxed, almost casual about it. They've made the transformation their default state, conserving energy while remaining powerful. The other Z fighters are amazed. Goku and Gohan have achieved something none of them thought possible: mastery of the Super Saiyan form. Cell's tournament approaches. He's built an arena in the middle of nowhere, a massive ring surrounded by cameras so the entire world can watch. He announces that the rules are simple: defeat him in combat or die trying. If everyone loses, he'll destroy the Earth slowly, city by city, until there's nothing left. The tournament begins, and the Z fighters arrive, ready to face him. Goku fights Cell first. The battle is incredible, with both of them moving at speeds too fast for most people to see. Goku uses every technique he knows: the Kamehameha, the solar flare, the instant transmission. He's faster and more skilled than Cell expected, and for a while it seems like he might actually win. But Goku knows the truth. He's not strong enough to defeat Perfect Cell, so he does something unexpected. He surrenders. Episode 84. Goku's surrender shocks everyone. They can't understand why he would give up when he was doing so well. But Goku has a plan. He tells Gohan to fight Cell next, believing that his son has the potential to surpass everyone, even Cell. Gohan is terrified. He doesn't want to fight. He's never enjoyed fighting the way his father does. But Goku insists, and Gohan steps into the ring. Cell is amused. He doesn't see Gohan as a threat, just a scared child. He decides to toy with him, attacking slowly, giving Gohan chances to fight back. But Gohan doesn't. He dodges, blocks, and endures, but he refuses to attack. Cell grows frustrated. He wants to see Gohan's true power, the hidden strength that Goku keeps talking about. So he creates 7 miniature versions of himself, called Cell Juniors, and orders them to attack Gohan's friends. The Cell Juniors are incredibly strong, easily overwhelming the Z fighters. Piccolo, Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, and even Vegeta and Trunks are beaten mercilessly. They scream in pain, begging for help, and Gohan watches, helpless to stop it. His fear turns to anger. His anger turns to rage, and his rage unlocks something inside him that no one, not even Goku, fully understood. Gohan transforms into a Super Saiyan 2, a form that doubles the power of the original transformation. His hair stands straight up, sparks of electricity crackling around his body. His eyes are cold, emotionless, filled with a fury that terrifies everyone watching. He destroys the Cell Juniors in seconds, moving so fast that Cell can't even track him. Then he turns his attention to Cell himself. Episode 85. The fight between Gohan and Cell is one-sided. Gohan is faster, stronger, and far more powerful than Cell ever anticipated. He beats Cell mercilessly, breaking his body, humiliating him in front of the entire world. Cell tries to regenerate, but Gohan's attacks are so overwhelming that he can barely keep up. For the first time since achieving his perfect form, Cell feels fear. In desperation, Cell tries to self-destruct, planning to take the entire planet with him. His body begins to swell with energy, a countdown starting. Goku realizes what's happening and makes a split-second decision. He uses instant transmission to teleport Cell to King Kai's planet, sacrificing himself to save Earth. The explosion destroys King Kai's planet, killing Goku, King Kai, Bubbles, and Gregory. But Cell survives. His core remained intact, and his cells regenerated his entire body. Not only that, but the near-death experience made him stronger, a Saiyan trait he inherited from Goku and Vegeta's DNA. He teleports back to Earth, more powerful than ever, and kills Trunks with a single blast. The Z fighters are devastated. Goku is dead, Trunks is dead, and Cell is stronger than before. But Gohan isn't done. He's injured, his arm broken from blocking one of Cell's attacks, but he's still the strongest fighter on the battlefield. He and Cell prepare for one final clash, gathering all their energy for a massive beam struggle. Gohan fires a Kamehameha. Cell fires his own blast. The two attacks collide in the center of the arena, and the entire world holds its breath. Episode 86. The beam struggle continues, with both fighters pouring everything they have into their attacks. Cell is winning at first, his blast slowly pushing Gohan's back. But then Goku's voice echoes in Gohan's mind. He's speaking from the afterlife, encouraging his son, telling him to let go of his fear and unleash his full power. Vegeta, lying injured on the ground, fires a blast at Cell from behind, distracting him for just a moment. That moment is all Gohan needs. He pours all his energy into the Kamehameha, overwhelming Cell's attack completely. The blast consumes Cell, disintegrating him cell by cell until nothing remains. The battle is over. Cell is dead. Earth is saved, but the cost was high. Goku is gone, sacrificed to protect everyone. And Trunks is dead, killed in the final moments of the fight. The Dragon Balls are used to revive everyone Cell killed, including Trunks, but when they try to bring Goku back, he refuses. He speaks to them through King Kai, explaining that Earth keeps getting attacked because of him. Frieza, the androids, and Cell all came to Earth looking for Goku. If he stays dead, maybe the Earth will finally have peace. The Z fighters are heartbroken, but they understand. Goku has made his choice. The episode ends with Gohan returning to a normal life. He goes back to school, studies hard, and tries to be the person his mother always wanted him to be. He's the strongest fighter on Earth now, but he doesn't want that responsibility. He wants to be a scholar, a teacher, someone who helps people without violence. The world moves on. And for 7 years, there is peace. Episode 87. 7 years pass. Gohan is now a teenager, attending Orange Star High School. He's abandoned his training, focusing entirely on his studies. He's still strong, but he's let himself grow soft. He wears glasses, keeps to himself, and tries to live as a normal person. But trouble finds him anyway. A group of criminals attack the city, and Gohan, unable to stand by, intervenes. He disguises himself as a masked vigilante called the Great Saiyaman, protecting the city while trying to keep his identity secret. At school, Gohan meets a girl named Videl, the daughter of Mr. Satan, the martial artist who took credit for defeating Cell. Vidal is strong, fearless, and determined to prove herself. She's also suspicious of Gohan, sensing that he's hiding something. She starts investigating him, trying to figure out who the Great Saiyaman really is. Eventually, she discovers his secret and blackmails him into teaching her how to fly. The World Martial Arts Tournament is announced, and Goku is given 1 day to return to Earth to participate. Everyone is excited to see him again. Vegeta has been training obsessively for 7 years, determined to surpass Goku. Gohan enters the tournament as well, though he's nervous about fighting in public. The tournament begins and familiar faces gather. Krillin, Piccolo, Tien, and even Goku, brought back for just 24 hours. But something strange happens during the tournament. 2 mysterious figures appear, draining energy from the fighters. They work for a wizard named Babidi who's trying to revive an ancient demon named Majin Buu. The Z-Fighters chase after them, leaving the tournament behind, and discover Babidi's spaceship hidden underground. Episode 88. Inside Babidi's spaceship, the Z-Fighters face a series of opponents, each stronger than the last. Vegeta fights alongside Goku and Gohan, but his mind is elsewhere. He's obsessed with surpassing Goku, and that obsession makes him vulnerable. Babidi senses the darkness in Vegeta's heart and takes control of him, turning him into Majin Vegeta. Majin Vegeta is stronger than ever, his power amplified by Babidi's magic, but he's not truly evil. He's simply desperate. He challenges Goku to a fight, demanding that Goku take him seriously, that he fight with everything he has. Goku reluctantly agrees, and the two Saiyans battle with devastating intensity. Their fight is personal, fueled by years of rivalry and unspoken resentment. While they fight, Babidi completes the ritual. Majin Buu is revived, and he's nothing like anyone expected. He's short, fat, and pink. With a childlike demeanor, he looks harmless, almost comical. But when he fights, his true nature is revealed. He's monstrously powerful, able to turn people into candy and eat them, able to regenerate from any injury, able to destroy entire cities with a wave of his hand. The Supreme Kai, a deity who's been observing events from the shadows, explains that Majin Buu destroyed entire galaxies in the past. He's a being of pure destruction, and he's nearly impossible to kill. The Z-Fighters realize they're facing their greatest threat yet. Even Goku and Vegeta together might not be enough to stop him. Episode 89. Vegeta fights Majin Buu alone, trying to prove his strength. But Buu is too powerful, too resilient. Vegeta's attacks do nothing. In a final act of desperation, Vegeta hugs Trunks and tells him he's proud of him. Then he sacrifices himself, detonating his own body in a massive explosion meant to destroy Buu completely. The blast is enormous, obliterating everything for miles. But when the smoke clears, Buu regenerates, completely unharmed. Vegeta died for nothing. Goku takes Gohan and the others to safety, then returns to face Buu alone. He reveals a new transformation, Super Saiyan 3. His hair grows long, his eyebrows disappear, and his power increases dramatically. He fights Buu with everything he has, matching him blow for blow. But the transformation drains his energy too quickly. He can't maintain it long enough to win. He retreats, telling the others that the next generation will have to finish this fight. He teaches Goten and Trunks the fusion dance, a technique that will allow them to merge into a single, incredibly powerful warrior. Meanwhile, Gohan is taken to the sacred world of the Kais, where the ancient Old Kai performs a ritual to unlock his hidden potential. The process takes hours, with Gohan sitting motionless, while Old Kai chants and dances around him. When it's complete, Gohan's power has increased beyond anything he achieved as a Super Saiyan. He returns to Earth, ready to face Majin Buu. Episode 90. Gohan confronts Majin Buu, and at first, it seems like he'll win easily. He's far stronger than Buu, dominating the fight without even transforming into a Super Saiyan. But Buu has a trick. He absorbs Gotenks, the fused form of Goten and Trunks, along with Piccolo. The absorption makes him far more powerful and intelligent. He beats Gohan mercilessly, toying with him, breaking his spirit as much as his body. Goku and Vegeta are revived and brought to the sacred world of the Kais. They decide to fuse using the Patara earrings, a technique that creates a permanent fusion far stronger than the fusion dance. They become Vegeto, a warrior with Goku's skill and Vegeta's ruthlessness. Vegeto is overwhelmingly powerful, easily matching Super Buu even after he absorbed Gohan. He toys with Buu, mocking him, breaking down his confidence. But Vegeto allows himself to be absorbed on purpose, planning to rescue Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo from inside Buu's body. Inside, they find the others trapped in cocoons. They free them, but this causes Buu to revert to his original form, Kid Buu, the purest and most dangerous version of the demon. Kid Buu is smaller, but far more chaotic and destructive. He destroys the Earth instantly, killing everyone except those on the sacred world of the Kais. Goku and Vegeta fight Kid Buu together, but they're exhausted, running out of energy. Goku forms a spirit bomb, gathering energy from across the universe. But it's not enough. Buu is too strong. Then Mr. Satan, the only person Buu ever showed kindness to, steps forward and convinces the people of Earth to give their energy to Goku. The spirit bomb grows massive, filled with the hopes and dreams of billions. Goku throws it, and this time it works. Kid Buu is destroyed completely, his essence scattered across the universe. The Dragon Balls are used to revive everyone killed by Buu and to restore the Earth. Goku is allowed to stay alive permanently, reuniting with his family. Vegeta finally accepts that Goku is the better fighter, the true hero. The series ends with Goku meeting Oob, the reincarnation of Kid Buu, at another World Martial Arts tournament. He sees potential in the boy and decides to train him, flying off into the sky with his new student. The final shot shows the Z fighters gathered together, smiling, knowing that the world is safe. Episode 91. The early episodes of Dragon Ball Z were filled with small production details that would shape the entire series. When the animation staff began work on the Saiyan arc, they had very little source material to work from. Akira Toriyama was still drawing the manga chapters week by week, often just a few weeks ahead of the anime production schedule. This meant that the anime team had to make educated guesses about character designs, color schemes, and even plot details. One of the most significant challenges was determining how the Saiyan armor should look. In the manga, Toriyama drew the armor in black and white, leaving the colors entirely up to interpretation. The anime staff chose the now iconic white and gold color scheme for the standard Saiyan armor, but this decision wasn't made immediately. Early concept art shows several different color variations, including all black armor and armor with red accents instead of gold. The animation director at the time explained in an interview years later that they wanted the Saiyans to look intimidating but not completely evil. The white and gold combination suggested a military aesthetic, something organized and official rather than chaotic and villainous. This choice would influence how every Saiyan character was designed going forward, from Bardock in the TV special to the Saiyans seen in Dragon Ball Super decades later. Another early production challenge involved the voice casting for the Saiyans. Vegeta's voice actor, Ryo Horikawa, was initially hesitant to take the role. He'd never played a character quite like Vegeta before, someone who was simultaneously proud, ruthless, and deeply insecure. The director encouraged him to think of Vegeta as a fallen prince, someone who had lost everything but refused to admit defeat. That interpretation became the foundation for how Horikawa approached the character throughout the entire series. Episode 92. The destruction of East City in Episode 32 was one of the darkest moments in early Dragon Ball Z. When Nappa destroys the entire city with a single attack, the anime lingers on the aftermath in a way the manga doesn't. We see buildings collapsing, cars exploding, and civilians running in terror before the blast wave reaches them. The scene was considered controversial in some countries, leading to edits in various international versions. The decision to show this level of destruction was intentional. The director wanted to establish that the Saiyans weren't just strong opponents, they were genocidal conquerors who had destroyed countless worlds before arriving on Earth. This wasn't going to be like the previous arcs where the villains had complex motivations or redeemable qualities. Vegeta and Nappa were mass murderers, and the audience needed to understand that immediately. The animation team spent extra time on this sequence, creating detailed background art of the city before its destruction. They wanted viewers to see that this was a real place with real people before it was obliterated. The contrast between the peaceful city and the sudden violence made the scene more impactful. In later interviews, the animation director mentioned that this scene set the tone for all of the Saiyan arc's battles. The stakes were life and death, not just for the fighters, but for everyone on Earth. Interestingly, the scene where Nappa destroys East City was referenced again years later in Dragon Ball Super. When Frieza returns and destroys Earth, the animation deliberately mirrors the East City destruction, creating a parallel between the two moments. Both scenes represent the culmination of the villain's patience running out, a point where they decide to stop playing around and simply destroy everything. Episode 93. Gohan's training in the wilderness with Piccolo spanned multiple episodes, but most of it happened off-screen. The anime would occasionally show brief training montages, but the day-to-day reality of those 6 months was largely left to the audience's imagination. According to the manga, Piccolo spent the first few months simply toughening Gohan up, forcing him to survive in harsh conditions without any comfort or support. The anime expanded on this with several filler episodes, showing Gohan learning to find food, build shelter, and defend himself against wild animals. These episodes were slow-paced and contemplative, focusing on Gohan's internal growth rather than action. In one episode, Gohan befriends a group of orphaned dinosaur eggs, protecting them from predators until they hatch. The episode ends with the baby dinosaurs leaving to find their own way, and Gohan realizing that he's become stronger through the experience of caring for something weaker than himself. These filler episodes served an important narrative purpose. They showed that Gohan was learning more than just how to fight. He was learning independence, self-reliance, and the kind of quiet courage that doesn't come from throwing punches. When Piccolo finally begins teaching him actual combat techniques, Gohan is already a different person from the crying child who was kidnapped by Raditz. The relationship between Piccolo and Gohan during this training period is one of the most important emotional arcs in Dragon Ball Z. Piccolo begins as someone who views Gohan as nothing more than a weapon to be forged, a tool to use against the Saiyans. But over time, he develops genuine affection for the boy. He starts to see himself in Gohan, another person who never asked to be thrust into violence, but has to survive it anyway. Episode 94. Goku's journey along Snake Way included several encounters that were purely anime invention. The most famous of these is Princess Snake's palace, but there were others scattered throughout his travels. In one episode, Goku encounters a race of cloud people who live in floating cities above Snake Way. They're peaceful and welcoming, offering him food and rest. But Goku realizes that time moves differently in their realm. What feels like a few hours to him is actually several days in the real world. This episode plays with the concept of temptation in an interesting way. The Cloud People aren't villains. They genuinely want to help Goku, but accepting their hospitality would mean losing valuable time that his friends on Earth don't have. Goku has to make the difficult choice to leave, declining their kindness even though he's exhausted and hungry. It's a moment that shows Goku's discipline, his ability to prioritize the mission over his own comfort. Another filler episode shows Goku encountering lost souls who fell off Snake Way and are now trapped in the clouds below, unable to find their way back up. They beg Goku for help, but he realizes that if he stops to save them, he'll never reach King Kai in time. It's a harsh moral dilemma, and the episode doesn't offer an easy answer. Goku does his best to help them find footholds to climb back up, but ultimately he has to keep moving. The episode ends with him looking back at the souls, still struggling, clearly bothered by his inability to save everyone. These filler episodes added depth to Goku's character by showing that his journey to King Kai's planet wasn't just physical training. It was a test of his resolve, his ability to make hard choices, and his understanding that sometimes being a hero means accepting that you can't save everyone. The lessons he learned on Snake Way would inform his decisions throughout the rest of the series, particularly during the Namek arc when he would face even more impossible moral choices. Episode 95. The Cybermen battle in episodes 34 and 35 showcased the different fighting styles of the human Z fighters. Each warrior approached the Cybermen differently, revealing their personalities and tactical thinking. Tien fought with calculated precision, analyzing his opponent's movements and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His victory was clean and efficient, a demonstration of the discipline he'd spent years cultivating. Yamcha's approach was more aggressive and emotional. He saw the Cyberman as a chance to prove himself, to show that he was still relevant despite being weaker than the Saiyans. His confidence wasn't entirely unfounded. He'd spent the year training at Kami's lookout, and his power level had increased significantly. Against the Cyberman, he was winning handily until the creature used its self-destruct technique. The decision to have Yamcha die first was controversial among the production staff. Some felt it was too brutal, that killing off a beloved character so early in the arc would alienate viewers. But Toriyama insisted that the death was necessary. It established that anyone could die in this arc, that the plot armor that had protected the main characters in the original Dragon Ball was gone. From this point forward, death was a real possibility for everyone. The animation of Yamcha's death was shocking for its time. The camera doesn't cut away. We see the explosion, see Yamcha's body fall, see the crater where he died. It's graphic in a way that Dragon Ball had never been before. The scene was censored or edited in several countries, but in Japan it aired as intended. The message was clear. This wasn't a children's adventure story anymore. This was war. Episode 96, Chiaotzu's sacrifice in episode 36, remains one of the most emotionally devastating moments in the series. His decision to self-destruct came from a place of love and desperation. He knew he was the weakest fighter on the battlefield. He knew his telekinetic abilities weren't enough to hurt Nappa, but he also knew that Tien was about to die, and he couldn't accept that. The scene where Tien begs Chiaotzu not to do it is heartbreaking in its simplicity. Tien doesn't yell or cry, he just quietly asks his friend to stop, to let him handle it, but Chiaotzu doesn't listen. He's made up his mind. He tells Tien goodbye, says that he'll see him again someday, and then detonates himself. The explosion is massive, far larger than the Cyberman's self-destruct that killed Yamcha. For a moment, it seems like it worked. But when the smoke clears, Nappa is still standing. He's annoyed, his armor is cracked, but he's alive. Chiaotzu died for nothing. That realization is what breaks Tien. Throughout the entire series up to this point, Tien has been stoic, disciplined, in control of his emotions, but watching his closest friend die without accomplishing anything shatters him. He collapses to his knees, unable to process the loss. The anime expands this moment significantly from the manga. We get a flashback to Tien and Chiaotzu's first meeting, how they trained together under Master Shen, how they became partners and then friends. The flashback is brief but effective, reminding the audience that these two have been together since the beginning of Dragon Ball. Their bond is deeper than just teammates. They're brothers in everything but blood. Episode 97. The arrival of Goku on the battlefield in episode 40 was one of the most anticipated moments in the series. Fans had been waiting for weeks to see him return, to see if he was strong enough to match the Saiyans. The episode builds that anticipation carefully, showing Goku traveling back along Snake Way, sensing his friends' energy fading as they die one by one. He knows he's running out of time. When Goku finally arrives and catches Nappa's attack in midair, the scene is shot to emphasize his calm confidence. He's not struggling. He's not even particularly angry yet. He's just there, completely in control, and Nappa's full power attack means nothing to him. The contrast between Nappa's brutal fighting style and Goku's effortless defense makes Goku seem almost otherworldly. The animation of Goku's first exchanges with Nappa uses a technique called smear frames, where the characters are drawn in distorted, blurred positions to emphasize speed. When Goku moves behind Nappa faster than the Saiyan can track, the smear frames make it look like he's teleporting rather than running. It's a visual shorthand for power that would become standard in anime fight scenes, but Dragon Ball Z was one of the first series to use it extensively. Goku's fighting style in this episode is notably different from how he fought in the original Dragon Ball. He's more patient, more analytical. He doesn't rush in with wild attacks. He observes Nappa, tests his defenses, and waits for openings. This measured approach reflects the training he received from King Kai, who emphasized that raw power means nothing without control and strategy. Episode 98. The 3-hour wait for Goku in episode 76 created an interesting pacing challenge for the anime. The episode needed to fill time while keeping viewers engaged, knowing that nothing significant would happen until Goku arrived. The solution was to focus on character interactions, showing how the Z-Fighters processed everything that had happened with Frieza and Cell. Trunks' revelation about the future created philosophical discussions among the group. If they already knew about the androids and had 3 years to prepare, did that mean the future was changeable? Or was it fixed, with the android attack inevitable regardless of what they did? Bulma pointed out that Trunks' very presence proved time could be changed, since he came from a timeline where no one had warned them. These conversations were largely anime original additions, expanding on the brief dialogue in the manga. They gave depth to the characters, showing that they weren't just fighters, but people grappling with complex existential questions. Krillin wondered if they had a moral obligation to prevent tragedies they knew were coming. Piccolo argued that trying to change too much could create unforeseen consequences. When Goku's spaceship finally appeared, the relief was palpable. The 3-hour wait had built tension not through action, but through the weight of anticipation. Everyone wanted to see Goku, to have him back, to hear what he thought about everything that had happened. His arrival felt like a return to normalcy, even though nothing would ever truly be normal again. Episode 99. The conversation between Goku and Trunks, where Trunks revealed his identity and warned about the androids, was one of the few truly private moments in the series. No one else could hear them. The audience was privileged to witness something the other characters would never know about unless Trunks chose to tell them. This created a unique sense of intimacy and importance. Trunks' explanation of his timeline was devastating. He described a world where the androids appeared and killed everyone, one by one. Vegeta died first, trying to fight them alone out of pride. Then Piccolo, then the humans, then even Gohan, who had been the strongest fighter left. Trunks trained with Gohan for years in that timeline, learning everything he could, but it wasn't enough. When Gohan died, Trunks was left alone in a destroyed world. The manga shows this conversation in a few pages. The anime expanded it into a full episode, adding details about Trunks' life in the future. He described the ruined cities, the constant fear, the way people had learned to hide whenever the androids appeared. The androids didn't seem to have a purpose beyond causing suffering. They killed for entertainment, destroying towns just because they were bored. Goku's reaction to this information was characteristically optimistic. He thanked Trunks for the warning and the medicine, then promised they would change the future. He didn't seem worried or frightened by the prospect of facing enemies stronger than Frieza. If anything, he seemed excited. Trunks found this attitude both reassuring and slightly disturbing. In his timeline, Goku had died before the androids arrived, so he'd never known this version of his father, the one who viewed every threat as an opportunity to test himself. Episode 100. The 3-year time skip between Trunks' warning and the android's arrival was shown primarily through montages and brief episodes. The anime couldn't spend 3 full years of real-time showing training, so it compressed the period into a handful of episodes that captured the essential developments. We saw Vegeta's obsessive training in the gravity chamber, pushing himself to ever higher levels of intensity. Vegeta's training was solitary by choice. He refused help from anyone, including Bulma, who tried to make the gravity chamber safer and more efficient. He didn't want efficiency. He wanted suffering. He believed that pain was the path to power, that he needed to break himself down completely before he could rebuild stronger. This philosophy was rooted in his pride and his trauma, the years spent as Frieza's servant watching Frieza's casual superiority. The moment when Vegeta achieved Super Saiyan was shown in a flashback during a later episode. He was training at 400 times Earth's gravity, a level that should have been impossible for anyone to survive in. His body was breaking down, his muscles tearing, his bones cracking under the pressure. But he refused to stop. He kept thinking about Goku, about how a low-class warrior had surpassed him, had achieved the legendary transformation first. In a moment of absolute rage and despair, Vegeta screamed at himself, at his father, at Frieza, at the entire universe that had deemed him inferior. And in that moment, the transformation happened. His hair turned gold, his power exploded outward, and the gravity chamber nearly collapsed from the force. Vegeta had achieved Super Saiyan not through purity or righteousness, but through sheer stubborn refusal to accept his limitations. Episode 101. The introduction of Dr. Gero and Android 19 in Episode 88 was deliberately anticlimactic. After years of build-up and warnings about unstoppable androids, the audience expected something immediately terrifying. Instead, they got an old man and a pale, chubby android who looked almost comical. This subversion was intentional, creating a false sense of security before the real threat arrived. Dr. Gero's design was inspired by classic mad scientist archetypes, complete with a white mustache and glasses. But his backstory was uniquely tied to Dragon Ball's history. He had worked for the Red Ribbon Army, the organization Goku destroyed as a child in the original series. Everything he did, every android he built, was motivated by a desire for revenge against Goku. He'd spent decades building the perfect killers. The revelation that Dr. Gero had turned himself into an android was disturbing in its implications. He'd voluntarily given up his humanity, replacing his organic body with machinery, all in service of his revenge. The process had extended his life far beyond normal human limits, giving him decades to perfect his creations. He'd become as much a machine as the androids he built. Android 19's energy absorption ability made him a unique threat. Unlike previous villains who could be hurt by sufficiently powerful attacks, 19 could absorb energy attacks and use them to make himself stronger. This forced the Z fighters to rely on physical combat, which was more taxing and less efficient. The battle became a war of attrition, with 19 slowly draining energy from anyone he touched. Episode 102. Goku's struggle with the heart virus during his fight with Android 19 was agonizing to watch. He could feel his strength fading, his energy being drained by both the virus and 19's absorption attacks. Every breath was difficult. His vision was blurring, but he kept fighting anyway, refusing to give up even as his body shut down. The decision to have Goku be vulnerable during this arc was a significant narrative choice. For the entire series up to this point, Goku had been the ultimate solution to every problem. Whenever things got desperate, Goku would arrive and save everyone. But now he was the one who needed saving, brought down not by a powerful enemy, but by a disease. It was a reminder that even the strongest warriors are mortal. Vegeta's arrival and his instant transformation into Super Saiyan changed the tone of the battle immediately. He didn't help Goku out of kindness or friendship. He stepped in because watching Goku struggle was beneath his pride. He wanted to defeat Goku at his best, not watch him die from illness. The fight between Vegeta and Android 19 was brutal and efficient, with Vegeta tearing the android apart with cold satisfaction. When Vegeta ripped off 19's arms, it was both shocking and cathartic. The android that had nearly killed Goku was destroyed in seconds by Vegeta's Super Saiyan power. But this victory also planted a seed of overconfidence in Vegeta. He began to believe he was invincible, that his Super Saiyan form made him superior to everyone. This arrogance would nearly cost him his life when the real androids appeared. Episode 103. The activation of Androids 17 and 18 marked a turning point in the arc. Unlike 19 and 20, these androids were completely different. They were based on human beings who had been kidnapped by Dr. Gero and converted into cyborgs. They retained their human personalities, memories, and free will. They weren't slaves to programming. They were people who had been given incredible power and chose to use it however they wanted. The scene where 17 and 18 killed Dr. Gero was darkly comedic. Gero had activated them hoping they would save him from the Z-Fighters, but they immediately turned on him. They'd never forgiven him for kidnapping them, for turning them into weapons, for stealing their humanity. His death was their first act of free will, a declaration that they wouldn't follow anyone's orders ever again. Android 16 was different from both 17 and 18. He was a complete artificial being, built entirely from mechanical parts with no human base. Gero had designed him specifically to kill Goku, programming him with an obsessive directive to eliminate the Saiyan. But 16 was also programmed with a deep love for nature, an appreciation for life and living things. This contradiction made him the most complex android despite being the least human. The dynamic between the three androids was interesting. 17 was cocky and impulsive, treating their mission to find Goku as a game. 18 was calmer and more pragmatic, but also cruel when she wanted to be. 16 was quiet and contemplative, only speaking when necessary. Together they formed an unusual family unit, bound together by their shared existence as creations of Dr. Gero. Episode 104. Vegeta's fight with Android 18 in episode 98 was humiliating for the Saiyan prince. He'd spent 3 years training to become a Super Saiyan, believing that transformation would make him the strongest being in the universe. But 18 matched him effortlessly, not even using her full power. Every punch he threw, she blocked. Every energy blast he fired, she dodged or absorbed. She was playing with him, and he knew it. The moment when 18 broke Vegeta's arm was especially significant. It wasn't just a physical injury, it was a psychological break. Vegeta had built his entire identity around being a warrior, being strong, being able to protect himself through power. Having his arm snap like a twig by someone who wasn't even trying shattered his worldview. For the first time since achieving Super Saiyan, he felt truly helpless. The anime extended this fight beyond what was shown in the manga, adding several minutes of Vegeta desperately trying different tactics. He tried overwhelming 18 with speed, but she was faster. He tried brute force, but she was stronger. He even attempted to use his final flash technique, but she dodged it easily. Nothing worked. The androids were simply on a different level. Trunks watching his father get beaten was its own form of torture. In his timeline, Vegeta had died fighting the androids, but Trunks had never seen it happen. Now, he was witnessing it in real time, watching his father's pride being destroyed along with his body. He wanted to intervene, to help, but he knew from experience that it wouldn't make a difference. The androids were too strong. Episode 105. Piccolo's decision to fuse with Kami was one of the most significant character developments in the series. For over 300 years, Piccolo and Kami had been split into two beings, one representing the evil that the original Namekian purged from himself, and one representing the good that remained. They'd spent centuries as enemies, then reluctant allies, and finally as partners working toward the same goal of protecting Earth. The fusion meant that both of them would cease to exist as individuals. A new being would emerge, one that possessed both their memories and abilities, but was neither Piccolo nor Kami. It was essentially a form of death, the end of two separate consciousnesses. Kami hesitated because fusion would also mean the disappearance of Earth's Dragon Balls, since they were tied to his life force. But he ultimately agreed, recognizing that the Dragon Balls meant nothing if everyone was dead. The fusion process was simple. Piccolo and Kami placed their hands together, and their bodies merged into one. The new Piccolo was noticeably different. He was taller, more muscular, and his facial features were sharper. His personality retained Piccolo's sarcastic edge, but also incorporated Kami's wisdom and patience. He was complete in a way neither of them had been separately. The power increase from the fusion was dramatic. Before fusion, Piccolo was roughly equal to an android in strength. After fusion, he was significantly stronger, capable of matching even semi-perfect Cell in combat. The fusion proved that Namekian fusion was one of the most powerful techniques in the universe, capable of creating warriors who could compete with Super Saiyans. Episode 106. The introduction of Cell in episode 114 changed everything. The androids had been the primary threat, but Cell was something else entirely. He was a bio-android created from the cells of the universe's greatest warriors, grown in a laboratory for the sole purpose of achieving perfection. His design was unsettling, with an insectoid appearance that made him look more like a monster than a person. Cell's ability to absorb people and steal their energy was horrifying in practice. The anime showed him attacking cities, draining thousands of people until they were nothing but empty husks. Each person he absorbed made him slightly stronger, and he needed to absorb millions to reach the point where he could take on the androids. The scenes of him moving through cities, leaving trails of dead bodies, were some of the darkest in the series. The revelation that Cell came from the future added a layer of complexity to the timeline. He came from a different future than Trunks, one where Trunks had successfully defeated the androids and returned to the past. In that timeline, Cell killed Trunks, stole his time machine, and traveled back to an earlier point in history to absorb the androids when they were still active. This created a branching timeline, a parallel universe where different versions of events unfolded. Cell's intelligence made him a unique villain. Unlike the androids who acted on impulse and boredom, Cell was strategic and patient. He knew exactly what he needed to do to achieve perfection, and he was willing to wait years if necessary. He hid in the shadows, growing stronger slowly, avoiding direct confrontation until he was ready. This made him unpredictable and far more dangerous than any previous opponent. Episode 107. The fight between Piccolo and Cell in episode 115 was a battle between two beings who shared genetic material. Cell had Piccolo's cells in his DNA, which meant he had access to Piccolo's regeneration ability. This made the fight incredibly difficult for Piccolo. Every injury he inflicted healed almost instantly. Blowing off Cell's arm just meant watching it grow back seconds later. The fight also showcased Piccolo's intelligence and tactical thinking. He quickly realized that he couldn't win through raw power, so he switched to trying to outsmart Cell. He used Solar Flare to blind Cell temporarily, then tried to destroy him with a massive energy wave. When that didn't work, he attempted to trap Cell using his stretching arms, planning to self-destruct and take Cell with him. But Cell was always one step ahead. He had Goku's instant transmission in his DNA, though he hadn't unlocked it yet. He had Vegeta's ruthlessness and Frieza's survivability. He was essentially a perfect combination of every fighter the Z-Fighters had ever faced, with none of their weaknesses. Fighting him felt like fighting a mirror that reflected their own techniques back at them enhanced. When Cell revealed his origin story explaining that he was created from cells collected during various battles over the years, the implications were disturbing. Dr. Gero had been collecting samples every time the Z-Fighters fought. When Goku fought Vegeta, Gero's spy robots were there, gathering cells. When they fought Frieza on Namek, robots were there. Even the King Cold encounter had been monitored and sampled. Cell was the culmination of decades of surveillance and experimentation. Episode 108. Vegeta and Trunks training in the hyperbolic time chamber was one of the most intense sequences in the arc. The room existed outside normal space and time, with 1 year passing inside for every day that passed outside. The environment was hostile with extreme temperatures, crushing gravity, and thin air that made breathing difficult. It was designed to push warriors to their absolute limits. The anime showed glimpses of their training through brief flashbacks. Vegeta pushed Trunks relentlessly, showing no mercy or favorably bias, despite being his father. He treated Trunks like any other training partner, attacking with full force, demanding perfection in every movement. Trunks struggled at first, unable to match his father's intensity, but gradually adapted to the brutal regimen. What Vegeta discovered in the time chamber would reshape his understanding of Super Saiyan transformation. He realized that the base Super Saiyan form was just the beginning. By training in that state continuously, never powering down, the transformation could be pushed further. The body could adapt, growing stronger, faster, more efficient. He achieved what he called Super Vegeta, a form that multiplied his power significantly beyond the standard Super Saiyan. Trunks discovered something different. He found a way to push his muscles to maximum size, creating a form with immense power but terrible speed. He called it Ultra Super Saiyan, and it looked incredibly impressive. His muscles bulged to bodybuilder proportions, and his energy output doubled. But the form was ultimately flawed. The increased muscle mass slowed him down too much. Against a fast opponent like Perfect Cell, it would be useless. Episode 109. Vegeta's decision to allow Cell to absorb Android 17 was one of the most controversial moments in his character arc. He had Cell beaten, completely outclassed by his Super Vegeta form. One more attack would have destroyed Cell permanently, preventing him from ever achieving perfection. But Vegeta's pride wouldn't allow it. He wanted to fight Cell at his strongest, to prove that even perfect Cell couldn't match a Super Saiyan Prince. Trunks tried to stop him, pleading with his father to finish Cell while they had the chance. But Vegeta refused to listen. He went so far as to attack Trunks when his son tried to interfere, knocking him aside so Cell could complete the absorption. It was a moment of pure selfishness, Vegeta prioritizing his own desire for a challenge over the safety of the entire planet. The transformation from semi-perfect Cell to perfect Cell was dramatic. Cell's body became sleeker, more refined, losing the monstrous insect qualities and becoming almost beautiful in an alien way. His power increased exponentially, far beyond what Vegeta had anticipated. When the transformation completed, Cell stood before them as something truly perfect, a warrior without weakness or limitation. The subsequent fight between Perfect Cell and Vegeta was brutal and one-sided. All of Vegeta's confidence evaporated within seconds. Perfect Cell was faster than Vegeta could perceive, stronger than Vegeta could defend against. Every attack Vegeta threw was dodged or blocked effortlessly. Cell wasn't even fighting seriously. He was demonstrating the gap between them, showing Vegeta exactly how foolish his pride had been. Episode 110. The Cell Games arc represented a shift in Dragon Ball Z's storytelling. Instead of an immediate battle to the death, Cell announced a tournament 10 days in the future. He wanted to give Earth's warriors time to prepare, to train, to become as strong as possible. Only then would he fight them, proving definitively that he was superior to every being on the planet. If they couldn't defeat him, he would destroy Earth slowly, city by city, letting everyone watch. This 10-day waiting period created an unusual atmosphere in the series. The characters knew exactly when the world would end if they failed. They had a countdown, a deadline, which added pressure to every training session. Goku used this time to train with Gohan in the hyperbolic time chamber, but his approach was completely different from Vegeta's brutal methodology. Goku understood something that Vegeta didn't. Power alone wouldn't be enough to defeat Cell. They needed to master the Super Saiyan form completely to make it as natural as breathing. He spent months training with Gohan not to achieve higher forms, but to perfect the base transformation. They stayed in Super Saiyan constantly, even while sleeping and eating, letting their bodies adapt completely. When they emerged from the time chamber, both Goku and Gohan were in their Super Saiyan forms, but they seemed relaxed, almost lazy about it. Their hair was golden, their eyes were green, but there was no tension in their bodies, no strain. They'd achieved what Goku called full power Super Saiyan, a state where the transformation cost almost no energy to maintain. It was the opposite of Vegeta and Trunks' approach, prioritizing efficiency over raw power. Episode 111. The days leading up to the Cell Games showed how different characters coped with the impending threat. Mr. Satan, the world martial arts champion who had taken credit for defeating Cell, announced he would fight in the tournament. He genuinely believed he could win, having never faced real ki-based fighters. His ignorance was both comedic and tragic, a reminder of how little normal humans understood about the battles happening around them. Android 16's character development during this period was subtle but significant. He was programmed to kill Goku, but he'd also been programmed to love nature and protect life. These contradictory directives created an internal conflict, that he struggled to resolve. He spent time in forests and mountains, observing animals and plants, trying to understand why he felt such deep affection for living things while simultaneously being designed to kill. Krillin's relationship with Android 18 became more prominent during this time. He'd been attracted to her since they first met, despite knowing she was one of the enemies they were supposed to stop. He saw something in her, a humanity that the others missed. She wasn't evil. She was just indifferent, going along with 17's plans because she had nothing better to do. When Krillin had the chance to use a remote control to shut down the androids permanently, he hesitated. Bulma had built the device after finding Dr. Gero's blueprints. All Krillin had to do was press a button, and 18 would power down forever. But he couldn't do it. He destroyed the remote instead, choosing to believe that she deserved a chance to live, to make her own choices. It was an act of faith that would eventually be rewarded. Episode 112. The Cell games began with fanfare and television cameras. Cell had built a large arena in an empty wasteland complete with a fighting ring and space for spectators. He'd announced the tournament to the entire world, inviting anyone who wanted to challenge him. Most people stayed home, watching on TV, too terrified to attend in person. But a few brave souls showed up, including Mr. Satan and his students. Mr. Satan's fights were a mixture of comedy and tragedy. He genuinely tried his best, using techniques that would work against normal humans. But against Cell, they were meaningless. Cell barely moved, letting Mr. Satan punch him repeatedly, the blows having no effect whatsoever. Finally, Cell flicked Mr. Satan with one finger, sending him flying out of the ring. The world champion was defeated in seconds. Goku stepped into the ring next, and the tone changed immediately. This wasn't going to be a joke fight. Both fighters powered up, their energy shaking the arena, and the real battle began. They moved at speeds too fast for the cameras to capture, appearing and disappearing across the arena, their impacts creating shockwaves that broke the surrounding terrain. The fight between Goku and Cell was spectacular in its choreography. They matched each other perfectly, neither able to gain a lasting advantage. Goku used instant transmission creatively, teleporting behind Cell and attacking before he could react. Cell countered with his own regeneration and adaptability, healing from injuries almost faster than Goku could inflict them. They fought for what felt like hours, neither willing to give up. Episode 113. Goku's surrender shocked everyone watching, both in the arena and around the world. He'd been holding his own against Cell, possibly even winning slightly. But he stopped fighting, stepped out of the ring, and announced that he gave up. When asked why, he simply said he wasn't strong enough to defeat Cell. There was someone else who could do it, someone with greater potential. He nominated Gohan to fight next. Gohan's reluctance to fight was genuine and painful to watch. He didn't want to hurt Cell. He'd never enjoyed fighting the way his father did. He fought when he had to protect people, but violence made him uncomfortable. The idea of being the one to kill Cell, even though Cell was a monster, disturbed him deeply. But he stepped into the ring anyway, unable to refuse when the world was at stake. Cell immediately recognized that Gohan wasn't fighting seriously. The boy was holding back, refusing to use his full strength. Cell found this frustrating and insulting. He wanted a real fight, a challenge worthy of his perfect form. He began attacking more aggressively, trying to make Gohan fight back, but Gohan just defended, dodging and blocking without countering. Android 16, watching from the sidelines, understood what was happening. He'd observed Gohan during the days leading up to the tournament. He knew the boy had incredible hidden power, but only accessed it when pushed to his emotional breaking point. 16 decided to intervene, to try to reach Gohan emotionally and unlock that power. He stepped into the arena, approaching Cell calmly, ready to sacrifice himself. Episode 114. 16's final words to Gohan were delivered from his severed head. Cell had ripped 16's body apart, leaving only the head functional. But even in that state, 16 spoke gently to Gohan, telling him that it was okay to fight when fighting was necessary to protect life. He explained that violence wasn't inherently wrong. Sometimes it was the only way to stop greater violence, to preserve the beauty of the world. 16 talked about nature, about how he'd spent his existence observing the forests and mountains, watching animals live and die in natural cycles. He said the world was worth protecting, that all the life on Earth had value. And sometimes protecting that life meant destroying threats like Cell, even if it meant getting your hands dirty, even if it meant embracing the anger and fury that Gohan kept locked away. Cell crushed 16's head under his foot, ending the android's existence permanently. That act, the casual destruction of someone who had only wanted to protect life, was the final trigger. Gohan felt something snap inside him. All the rage he'd been suppressing, all the fear and grief from watching his friends suffer, all the pressure of being expected to save the world, it all came flooding out at once. The transformation into Super Saiyan 2 happened in an explosion of golden energy. Gohan's hair stood completely upright, his muscle mass increased slightly, and lightning crackled around his aura. His power doubled from Super Saiyan, but more importantly, his personality changed. The gentle, reluctant boy vanished, replaced by a cold, efficient fighter who looked at Cell with complete disdain. This wasn't Gohan the scholar, this was Gohan the warrior, and he was ready to kill. Episode 115. Gohan's fight with Cell after the transformation was a complete reversal of their previous dynamic. Where Cell had been toying with Gohan before, now Gohan was toying with Cell. He moved faster than Cell could track, landing devastating blows that sent the bio-android crashing through mountains. Each punch was precise, calculated to cause maximum damage. This wasn't wild rage, this was controlled fury. Cell tried everything in his arsenal. He fired energy blasts that Gohan deflected with casual waves of his hand. He attempted physical combinations that Gohan blocked effortlessly. He even tried using the techniques he'd inherited from various fighters, throwing Kamehamehas and Destructo discs that Gohan either dodged or destroyed before they could reach him. Nothing worked. The gap in power was too vast. The Cell Juniors, the miniature versions Cell had created to torture the Z fighters, were destroyed next. Gohan moved through them like a scythe through wheat, killing each one with a single strike. The creatures that had been overwhelming Vegeta, Trunks, and Piccolo were obliterated in seconds. Gohan didn't break his stride, didn't show any emotion. He simply eliminated them and turned back to Cell. Cell's panic was visible. For the first time since achieving his perfect form, he felt fear. He'd been so confident, so certain of his superiority, and now a half-Saiyan child was dismantling him. He tried to bluff, claiming he was still holding back, but everyone could see through it. Cell was giving everything he had, and it wasn't enough. The perfect being had met something more perfect. Episode 116. Goku's coaching from the sidelines during this fight showed a different side of his character. He wasn't worried about Gohan. He was calm, almost proud, watching his son dominate the battle. But he also recognized the danger in Gohan's current state. The transformation had unlocked Gohan's power, but it had also unlocked a cruelty that wasn't normally part of his personality. Gohan wasn't just fighting to stop Cell. He was enjoying making Cell suffer. When Cell attempted to blow himself up, planning to take the Earth with him, Goku made a split-second decision that would define his character forever. He could have let Vegeta or someone else handle it, could have looked for another solution, but he knew that every second of hesitation meant more swelling energy, a larger explosion. So he used instant transmission to place his hand on Cell's shoulder and teleported them both to King Kai's planet. The goodbye Goku said to Gohan in that moment was brief but loaded with meaning. He told Gohan he was proud of him, that he knew his son would finish the fight. There was no fear in Goku's voice, no regret. He'd lived his life exactly as he wanted, fighting strong opponents, protecting his friends, raising his son to be strong. If this was how it ended, he accepted it completely. Then he and Cell vanished in a flash of light. The explosion on King Kai's planet was visible from Earth as a distant burst of light. When it faded, Goku's energy signature was gone. Everyone felt it disappear, that familiar warmth that had always meant safety and hope. Gohan stood frozen in the arena, processing what his father had just done. The man who always came back, always found a way to survive, was gone, and he'd sacrificed himself to clean up a mistake Gohan had made by toying with Cell instead of finishing him immediately. Episode 117. Cell's return to Earth after the explosion should have been impossible. His core was destroyed, his body was obliterated. But his cells contained Piccolo's regeneration ability, which worked as long as a single cell survived. That cell regrew his entire body in seconds, and the near-death experience triggered the Saiyan trait of growing stronger after recovery. Cell returned more powerful than before, stronger even than Gohan in Super Saiyan 2. The moment Cell killed Trunks with a blast through the chest was shocking in its suddenness. There was no build-up, no dramatic confrontation. Cell simply fired, and Trunks died instantly, his body falling to the ground with a smoking hole where his heart used to be. Vegeta, watching his son die, felt something break inside him. All his pride, all his arrogance, none of it mattered when his son was lying dead in front of him. Vegeta's attack on Cell was suicidal. He knew he couldn't win. Cell was far too strong, and Vegeta was exhausted from the earlier fighting. But he attacked anyway, firing everything he had left at Cell in a blind rage. It was pointless. Cell swatted him aside effortlessly, and Vegeta crashed to the ground, unconscious but alive. The attack accomplished nothing tactically, but it bought Gohan a few seconds to recover. Those seconds mattered because they allowed Gohan to see his father's voice manifest through Goku's spirit contact from the afterlife. Goku's voice echoed in Gohan's mind, encouraging him, telling him to stop holding back, to use everything he had. Gohan had been fighting with one arm, the other hanging useless from Cell's earlier attack. But pain didn't matter anymore. Fear didn't matter. Only finishing this fight mattered. Episode 118. The final Kamehameha clash between Gohan and Cell was one of the most iconic moments in anime history. Both fighters poured everything they had into their attacks, creating beams of energy so massive they could be seen from space. The two blasts collided in the center of the arena, and for a moment neither could push the other back. They were perfectly matched, two forces of nature trying to annihilate each other. Cell had the advantage initially. His attack was slightly stronger, and he was slowly pushing Gohan's beam back toward him. Cell taunted Gohan, telling him to give up, that his father's death was meaningless, that Earth would be destroyed no matter what. But those words only strengthened Gohan's resolve. He thought about his father's sacrifice, about everyone who had died fighting Cell, about the planet that would cease to exist if he failed. Vegeta's interference came from an unexpected angle. He was barely conscious, too weak to stand, but he managed to fire a single ki blast at Cell from behind. It wasn't powerful enough to hurt Cell, but it distracted him, broke his concentration for just a fraction of a second. That fraction was all Gohan needed. He poured every last bit of energy into his Kamehameha, pushing it forward with a final desperate surge. The beam overwhelmed Cell completely. His perfect body began to disintegrate, cell by cell burning away in the golden light. He tried to regenerate, tried to use his absorption ability, tried everything, but nothing could stop the destruction. His last expression was one of disbelief, unable to accept that he was being defeated by a child. Then he was gone, erased from existence, leaving nothing behind but ash scattered in the wind. Episode 119. The aftermath of the Cell games was bittersweet. Earth was saved, but the cost was staggering. Goku was dead, refusing to be wished back because he believed his presence attracted danger to Earth. Trunks had died, though he would be revived by the Dragon Balls. The entire planet had watched the battle on television, seeing firsthand how close they came to extinction. The world would never be the same. Mr. Satan, somehow still alive and uninjured, took credit for defeating Cell. The cameras had stopped working during the final battle, so most people hadn't seen what actually happened. Satan spun a story about using smoke and mirrors to confuse Cell, then delivering a knockout punch when the alien was distracted. The story was absurd, but people wanted to believe it. They needed a human hero, someone relatable who had saved them. The Z-Fighters didn't contradict Satan's story. They didn't care about fame or recognition. They just wanted to go home, to rebuild their lives, to process everything that had happened. Gohan returned to his mother, who was relieved to have him back, but devastated about Goku. Chi-Chi had lost her husband twice now, and this time he wasn't coming back. She would have to raise Gohan and Goten, her second son who had been born after Goku's death, alone. Vegeta's reaction to Trunks' death and subsequent revival was complicated. He'd spent his entire life believing that Saiyans didn't need emotional attachments, that family was a weakness. But watching Trunks die had awakened something in him, some paternal instinct he'd tried to suppress. When Trunks was revived and returned to his own timeline, Vegeta found himself feeling something he'd never felt before. He would miss his son. Episode 120, the 7-year time skip between the Cell games and the Buu arc, allowed the world to heal and the characters to live relatively normal lives. Gohan attended high school, dated Vidal, and eventually proposed to her. He'd given up martial arts training almost entirely, focusing on his studies and his relationship. Chi-Chi was thrilled. She'd always wanted Gohan to be a scholar, and now he finally was. Vegeta had settled into domestic life with Bulma, though he'd never admit he enjoyed it. He had a second child, Bula, and found himself being more present as a father than he'd ever imagined possible. But he never stopped training. Every day he spent hours in the gravity chamber, pushing himself harder, always trying to surpass Goku. Even though Goku was dead, Vegeta still measured himself against that standard. Krillin married Android 18 in a quiet ceremony. Their relationship had developed slowly over the years, with 18 gradually opening up and showing vulnerability. She admitted that she'd never expected to have a normal life after Dr. Gero turned her into an android. Being with Krillin, having their daughter Marin, it was more than she thought she deserved. Krillin had given her something she didn't know she wanted, a family. Piccolo spent those 7 years training and meditating, preparing for threats that might never come. He'd bonded with Gohan during the Cell games, and even though Gohan had moved on to a normal life, Piccolo watched over him from a distance. He was essentially alone now, the last Namekian on Earth, but he'd made peace with that solitude. His purpose was protecting the planet, and that was enough. Episode 121. The World Martial Arts Tournament that kicks off the Buu arc was meant to be a celebration, a chance for the Z-Fighters to gather and have fun competing against each other. Goku was granted 24 hours to return to Earth for the tournament, a gift from the afterlife for his years of protecting the universe. Everyone was excited to see him, especially Gohan, who hadn't seen his father since the Cell Games 7 years earlier. Goten and Trunks' participation in the junior division introduced the audience to the next generation of fighters. Both boys were already capable of transforming into Super Saiyans despite their young age, a testament to the S-cells passed down from their fathers. Their fight in the finals was intense, more so than any other junior division match in history, with both boys holding back their transformations to avoid exposing their secret. The reveal of Supreme Kai and Kibito at the tournament added an ominous undertone to the festivities. Supreme Kai was one of the most important beings in the universe, a deity who governed creation itself. His presence at a martial arts tournament on Earth was suspicious. When he explained that he'd come to stop the revival of Majin Buu, everyone realized that their peaceful 7 years were about to end. The plan was to follow the energy-stealing minions back to their master, Babidi the Wizard. Supreme Kai explained that Babidi had been traveling across the universe, gathering energy to revive Majin Buu, an ancient demon of pure destruction. Earth was the final stop, the last planet Babidi needed to drain before he had enough energy for the revival ritual? The Z Fighters agreed to help, leaving the tournament to track down Babidi's ship. Episode 122. Babidi's spaceship was hidden underground, accessible only through a specific entrance that Supreme Kai knew about. Inside, the ship was much larger than it appeared from outside, with multiple levels leading down to a central chamber where Buu's sealed egg was kept. Each level was guarded by fighters Babidi had recruited from across the universe, warriors powerful enough to pose a threat even to Super Saiyans. The first guardian was Pui Pui, an alien warrior who challenged Vegeta. The fight took place on Pui Pui's home planet, recreated through magic inside the ship. The planet had 10 times Earth's gravity, which Babidi believed would give Pui Pui an advantage, but Vegeta had trained at 400 times Earth's gravity. He defeated Pui Pui in seconds, barely exerting himself. It was a demonstration of how much stronger the Saiyans had become since the Cell Games. The second guardian was Yakon, a creature that ate light and lived in complete darkness. Goku fought this one, and the battle was interesting tactically. Yakon absorbed energy attacks, making beam-based combat impossible. But Goku realized that the creature could only absorb so much energy before overloading. He transformed into Super Saiyan, releasing so much light that Yakon exploded trying to eat it all. Another guardian defeated with minimal effort. The third guardian was Dabura, the king of the demon realm and Babidi's most powerful servant. Unlike the previous opponents, Dabura was legitimately strong, roughly equal to Cell in power. He could turn people to stone with his spit, breathe fire, and wield a magical sword that could cut through almost anything. His fight with Gohan showed how much Gohan had weakened from lack of training. The scholar could barely keep up with Dabura, despite being in Super Saiyan form. Episode 123. Babidi's mind control technique worked by amplifying the darkness already present in someone's heart. It couldn't affect someone who was truly pure, but anyone with lingering doubts, anger, or resentment was vulnerable. Vegeta had been resistant at first, his pride making him believe he was above manipulation. But Babidi found the perfect weakness: Vegeta's obsession with surpassing Goku, his resentment at being second best. The transformation into Majin Vegeta was both physical and psychological. The M symbol appeared on Vegeta's forehead, marking him as Babidi's servant. His power increased dramatically as the magic enhanced his natural abilities, but more significantly, his inhibitions disappeared. All the character development he'd undergone since arriving on Earth, all the softening that had come from living with Bulma and raising Trunks, it all vanished. He reverted to the ruthless Saiyan warrior who had first arrived on Earth years ago. Vegeta's first action under Babidi's control was to attack the crowd at the World Martial Arts Tournament. He fired energy blasts into the stands, killing hundreds of innocent people. Goku and Gohan watched in horror, unable to stop him without escalating the situation. Vegeta smiled throughout the massacre, enjoying the fear he was causing, relishing the freedom to be cruel without guilt. When Goku asked Vegeta why he did it, why he let Babidi control him, Vegeta's answer was chilling. He said he'd allowed himself to be controlled because it freed him from the weakness of caring about others. For 7 years he'd been trying to be a good person, a good husband, a good father, but that softness had made him weak. By embracing evil again, he could reclaim the ruthlessness that had once made him a powerful warrior. Episode 124. The fight between Goku and Majin Vegeta was a long time coming. For years, Vegeta had wanted a rematch, a chance to prove he'd surpassed Goku. Now he had his chance, and both fighters went all out from the start. They transformed into Super Saiyan 2 simultaneously, their power shaking the ground, and began trading blows that cracked mountains and split the sky. This fight was different from their battle on Earth years ago. Back then, Vegeta had been trying to kill Goku to assert his dominance through victory. Now, there was something more personal happening. This was about pride, about identity, about Vegeta needing to prove to himself that he wasn't inferior. Every punch carried years of frustration and resentment behind it. Goku fought reluctantly. He didn't want to hurt Vegeta, didn't want to encourage this behavior. But he also recognized that Vegeta needed this, needed to get it out of his system. So he fought seriously, showing Vegeta the respect of taking him as a genuine threat. They matched each other blow for blow, neither able to gain a lasting advantage. They were truly equal, two sides of the same Saiyan coin. While they fought, Babidi completed his ritual. The energy gathered from their battle, combined with everything else he'd collected, was enough to revive Majin Buu. The seal on the ancient ball cracked, steam began pouring out, and something pink and formless started to emerge. Supreme Kai screamed at Goku and Vegeta to stop fighting, to focus on the real threat. But they ignored him. They were too caught up in their rivalry to care about anything else. Episode 125. Majin Buu's initial appearance was deceptively harmless. He looked like a chubby pink creature with a childlike face and simple vocabulary. He bounced around playfully, seemingly more interested in eating candy than fighting. Babidi was disappointed at first, having expected something more intimidating. But Supreme Kai knew better. He'd seen Buu before, millions of years ago, and he knew that the cute exterior hid something monstrous. The first demonstration of Buu's power came when Dabura, confused and skeptical about this supposed demon of destruction, attacked him. Dabura used his full strength, firing energy blasts and swinging his sword trying to destroy Buu, but Buu simply absorbed the attacks, his body stretching and morphing to avoid damage. When Dabura's sword cut through him, Buu's body sealed itself back together instantly. Then Buu turned Dabura into a cookie and ate him. This candy transformation ability was one of Buu's signature techniques. He could turn any living being into food through a beam from his head tentacle, then consume them. The victim remained conscious inside Buu's body for a brief moment before being digested and absorbed. It was a horrifying way to die, and Buu did it casually, without malice or anger. He was simply hungry, and people were food. Vegeta's fight with Buu showed the vast difference in their abilities. Vegeta attacked with everything he had, firing his final flash and other powerful techniques, but Buu regenerated from every injury instantly. Cutting him in half just meant he'd grow back together. Blowing him apart just meant the pieces would find each other and merge. Buu was essentially indestructible through conventional combat. Episode 126. Vegeta's sacrifice against Majin Buu remains one of the most emotional scenes in Dragon Ball Z. After years of being selfish and prideful, Vegeta finally understood what Goku had known all along. Sometimes protecting others is more important than proving yourself. He knocked Trunks unconscious and hugged him, telling his son he was proud of him, that he loved him. Those words, coming from Vegeta, shocked everyone who heard them. Then Vegeta flew to where Buu was standing, gathering every bit of energy in his body for one final attack. He asked Piccolo if he would see Goku in the afterlife when he died. Piccolo, being brutally honest, told him no. Vegeta had done too many evil things in his life. He would go to hell, his soul would be cleansed, and he wouldn't retain his body or memories. There would be no chance for redemption or reunion. Vegeta accepted this without complaint. He said that even if this was the end, even if he would never see his family again, at least he would die protecting them. Then he detonated himself in a massive explosion, his final atonement, an attack designed to completely obliterate everything nearby. The blast consumed Buu, disintegrated the landscape, and left a massive crater where Vegeta had been standing. When the smoke cleared, Vegeta was gone, his body reduced to stone statue that crumbled into dust. But Buu survived. His core remained intact, and from that single piece, his entire body regenerated. The smoke cleared to reveal Buu standing exactly where he'd been before, completely unharmed. Vegeta's sacrifice, as meaningful as it had been emotionally, accomplished nothing tactically. The realization hit everyone hard. If even Vegeta's self-destruction couldn't kill Buu, what could? Episode 127. Goku's return to Earth after sensing Vegeta's death was somber. He teleported directly to where his rival had died, finding only dust and memories. He'd never truly believed Vegeta would sacrifice himself like that, never thought the proud Saiyan prince was capable of that kind of selflessness. It forced Goku to reconsider everything he thought he knew about Vegeta. They'd been rivals for so long that he'd forgotten they were also, in their own way, friends. The decision to teach Goten and Trunks the fusion dance came from desperation. Goku knew he couldn't defeat Buu himself, not with the time limitations of his temporary stay on Earth. But if Goten and Trunks could fuse into a single warrior, combining their strength and potential, they might be strong enough. The fusion dance required perfect synchronization, with both participants performing identical movements simultaneously. Even a slight mistake would result in a weak, useless fusion. Teaching the boys took time they didn't have. Goten and Trunks struggled with the timing, getting the poses wrong repeatedly. Each failure resulted in a botched fusion that lasted 30 minutes before wearing off, wasting valuable practice time. But gradually they improved. They learned to move as one, to suppress their individual egos and work together. When they finally succeeded, the resulting warrior, Gotenks, was incredibly powerful but also incredibly arrogant. Meanwhile, Gohan was taken to the sacred world of the Kais for the potential unlock ritual. The old Kai, ancient beyond measure, performed a ceremony that took over 20 hours of continuous chanting and dancing. Gohan had to sit completely still the entire time, not moving, not speaking, barely breathing. It was agonizing in its tedium, but when it was complete, Gohan's power had increased beyond anything he'd achieved through transformation. He'd become stronger than Super Saiyan 3 without needing to transform at all. Episode 128. Super Saiyan 3 was Goku's secret, a transformation he'd achieved in the afterlife through years of training. It multiplied his power by 4 times that of Super Saiyan 2, making him the strongest fighter in the universe at that moment. But the form had a critical flaw. It drained energy too quickly. In his living body, Goku could only maintain it for a few minutes before exhausting himself completely. It was a last resort, a technique meant for finishing fights quickly. When Goku transformed into Super Saiyan 3 for the first time on Earth, the visual spectacle was immense. His hair grew down to his waist, his eyebrows disappeared, and his brow became more pronounced. The transformation took several minutes, with Goku screaming as his power built higher and higher. The energy released was so enormous that it could be felt across the entire planet. Buu watched with interest, curious about this new golden warrior. The fight between Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Majin Buu was intense, but ultimately pointless. Goku realized within minutes that he couldn't win. He could hurt Buu, could push him back, but he couldn't destroy him. Every injury healed instantly. Every successful attack was ultimately meaningless. And with each passing second, Goku's energy dropped lower. The form was burning through his limited time on Earth, faster than he'd anticipated. Goku retreated, teleporting away before Buu could finish him off. He found Goten and Trunks and explained that they were Earth's only hope now. They needed to master fusion, become strong enough as Gotenks to destroy Buu. Goku's time was almost up. He would return to the afterlife soon, leaving the living world to fend for itself. He had faith in the boys, faith that the next generation would succeed where he'd failed. Episode 129. Gotenks' personality was a combination of Goten's playfulness and Trunks' arrogance, magnified to absurd levels. He didn't take Buu seriously as a threat, viewing the demon as more of an opportunity to show off. His first few fights with Buu were filled with unnecessary tricks and dramatic poses, wasting time on spectacle instead of actually trying to win. Piccolo, watching from the sidelines, was torn between pride at Gotenks' power and frustration at his immaturity. When Gotenks transformed into Super Saiyan 3, his power increased to the point where he actually could match Buu in combat. The form came with all the drawbacks Goku had experienced, draining energy rapidly, but Gotenks was too arrogant to care. He attacked Buu with a barrage of creative techniques, each one named something ridiculous like Super Ghost Kamikaze Attack or Galactic Donut. Some of them were surprisingly effective, but Gotenks made the same mistake Gohan had made with Cell. He toyed with his opponent instead of finishing the fight. He wanted to look cool, to make the victory dramatic and memorable. He gave Buu time to adapt, time to plan, time to turn the tables. When the fusion time limit ran out and Gotenks split back into Goten and Trunks, Buu was still alive and now very, very angry. Buu's response was to absorb Gotenks, along with Piccolo, gaining their power and intelligence. The absorption transformed Buu into something far more dangerous. He retained his regeneration and Candy Beam, but now he also had Piccolo's strategic thinking and Gotenks' techniques. This Super Buu was cunning where the previous version had been simple, calculating where it had been impulsive. The threat level had escalated beyond what anyone had prepared for. Episode 130. Gohan's return to Earth should have been the turning point, the moment when the tide turned against Buu. He'd had his potential fully unlocked by old Kai, making him stronger than anyone else on the planet. When he confronted Super Buu, the fight was completely one-sided at first. Gohan beat Buu effortlessly, not even needing to transform into Super Saiyan. His base form was strong enough to dominate. Buu tried every trick he knew. He stretched his body to avoid attacks, regenerated from injuries, fired energy blasts, but nothing worked. Gohan was simply on a different level. It looked like the fight would be over quickly, that Gohan would destroy Buu and save the day just like he'd done against Cell. But Buu had learned from that experience. He'd seen what happened when someone stronger appeared. This time, he had a plan. Buu pretended to be more hurt than he was, baiting Gohan into lowering his guard. Then he quickly absorbed Gohan before anyone could react. The transformation into Gohan Buu was the pinnacle of Buu's evolution. He now had the power of the strongest warrior on Earth, combined with the absorption abilities and regeneration of his demon form. No one left on the planet could match him. This forced the Supreme Kai to retrieve Goku and Vegeta from the afterlife. Vegeta was brought back to life temporarily, his halo removed for just long enough to help at the final battle. The two Saiyans were given Potara earrings, items that would allow them to fuse permanently into a single warrior. The fusion would be eternal, with no time limit, creating someone far stronger than Gotenks ever was. Episode 131. The fusion of Goku and Vegeta created Vegeto, a warrior who combined Goku's carefree battle joy with Vegeta's tactical ruthlessness. His power was absurd, far beyond anything Super Buu could handle even with Gohan absorbed. Vegeto didn't just fight Buu, he humiliated him. Every attack Buu threw was dodged or countered effortlessly. Vegeto turned the battle into a game, making jokes, showing off, deliberately prolonging the fight just to prove how outclassed Buu was. When Buu turned Vegeto into candy, it seemed like the battle was over. The candy beam had worked on everyone else it hit, leaving them helpless. But Vegeto retained his consciousness and power even as a piece of candy. He attacked Buu from inside the demon's mouth, bouncing around, causing damage that Buu couldn't defend against. It was humiliating and absurd, a warrior shaped like candy beating up an ancient demon of destruction. Vegeto allowed himself to be absorbed on purpose, lowering his barrier at the last second so Buu would swallow him. This was part of a plan to rescue everyone Buu had absorbed: Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo. Once inside Buu's body, the Potara fusion wore off unexpectedly. Goku and Vegeta were separate again, able to search through the strange, fleshy landscape of Buu's interior for their friends. They found everyone trapped in cocoons, unconscious but alive. Freeing them should have been the solution, the way to weaken Buu and make him vulnerable. But when they tore the cocoons away from Buu's core, something unexpected happened. Buu didn't weaken. He transformed. The absorption had been holding him back, forcing him to maintain a more stable form. Without it, he reverted to his original, purest, most dangerous state. Kid Buu. Episode 132. Kid Buu was smaller than all his previous forms, almost childlike in appearance, but he was also completely insane. Unlike the other versions of Buu who had shown moments of hesitation or thought, Kid Buu acted on pure impulse. He didn't speak. He didn't plan. He simply destroyed. The first thing he did after transforming was destroy the Earth. Not as a threat, not to accomplish a goal, but because he could. One energy blast, and the planet exploded, killing everyone who wasn't protected by Supreme Kai's teleportation. The battle moved to the sacred world of the Kais, a plane of existence outside normal space where Supreme Kai lived. It was one of the few places in the universe that could withstand the kind of battle about to unfold. Goku and Vegeta fought Kid Buu together, and even working as a team, they barely held their own. Kid Buu was wild, unpredictable, regenerating from every injury and attacking without pattern or reason. Goku tried using Super Saiyan 3 again, and for a time it worked. He dominated the fight, pushing Kid Buu back, dealing significant damage too quickly. His living body, revived permanently earlier by the wish, couldn't handle the strain as well as his dead body had. Within minutes, he was exhausted, panting, struggling to maintain the transformation. Kid Buu, meanwhile, showed no signs of fatigue. The decision to use the Spirit Bomb came from desperation. It was the only technique Goku had that could potentially destroy Buu completely, erasing him on a cellular level so regeneration would be impossible. But charging the Spirit Bomb required time and energy from other living beings. Earth was gone, destroyed by Buu. Goku would have to gather energy from across the entire universe, from every planet with intelligent life. Episode 133. Mr. Satan's role in the final battle was unexpected and crucial. When Goku called out to the people of Earth, asking them to raise their hands and give energy to the Spirit Bomb, almost no one responded. They didn't know who Goku was. They couldn't see him or verify that he was trustworthy. But they knew Mr. Satan, the world champion who had defeated Cell. When Satan vouched for Goku, telling everyone to trust the stranger and give their energy, people listened. The sight of millions of people across the newly revived Earth raising their hands, sending energy to the sky, was powerful in its symbolism. These were ordinary people, not warriors or fighters. They had no idea what was happening, why this energy was needed, or if it would even help. But they trusted Mr. Satan, and through him, they trusted Goku. In that moment, humanity came together to save itself. The Spirit Bomb grew massive, larger than planets, filled with the hopes and energy of countless beings across the universe. Goku struggled to hold it, his body shaking from the weight of so much power. Kid Buu tried to attack him, to interrupt the technique, but Vegeta stepped in. He fought Kid Buu alone, taking brutal punishment, buying Goku the seconds he needed to finish charging the attack. When Goku finally threw the Spirit Bomb, Kid Buu tried to push it back. For a moment there was a struggle, the demon's strength against the combined will of the universe. But Buu was alone, just one being against billions. The Spirit Bomb slowly pushed forward, overwhelming Buu's resistance, pressing him down into the ground. Goku screamed, pouring everything he had left into the attack, and finally, Kid Buu's body began to disintegrate. Cell by cell, he burned away until nothing remained but light. Episode 134. The final wish on the Namekian Dragon Balls restored Earth completely, bringing back every person who had died during Buu's rampage. Cities were rebuilt instantly. Forests regrew, lakes refilled with water. It was as if the destruction had never happened, though the memories remained. People woke up confused, uncertain about what was real, their last memories being of pink demons and exploding planets. The world had been saved, but everyone knew how close they'd come to extinction. Goku's request to Shenron, asking that Buu be reincarnated as a good person, was characteristic of his worldview. He didn't want Buu to simply cease existing. Despite everything the demon had done, Goku recognized that Buu was, in his own way, innocent. Kid Buu had been created to destroy. He'd never been given a choice, never had a chance to be anything else. Reincarnation would give him that chance, an opportunity to live a life guided by his own decisions rather than programming. The reincarnation would eventually become Oob, a boy born in a village in the southern islands of Earth. He would have no memories of being Buu, no connection to that previous existence, but the power would remain, dormant inside him, waiting to be unlocked. Years later, Goku would meet him at a martial arts tournament and recognize the potential immediately. That meeting would mark the beginning of a new chapter. But for now, peace had finally arrived. Vegeta's character arc reached completion in these final episodes. He'd started the series as a genocidal conqueror who viewed Earth and its inhabitants as beneath him. He'd evolved slowly, fighting against his own nature, refusing to admit that he'd grown to care about the people around him. But his final words to Goku, acknowledging that Goku was the better fighter and the better person, represented a fundamental shift in his identity. He was no longer the proud prince who refused to accept second place. He was Vegeta, warrior, father, and reluctant hero. Episode 135. The 10-year time skip that concluded Dragon Ball Z showed how the characters had settled into their final roles. Gohan had become a professor, teaching at a university while raising his daughter Pan. He rarely fought anymore, having fully embraced the scholarly life his mother always wanted for him. But he kept training occasionally, maintaining his strength in case the world ever needed him again. His relationship with Videl was strong, built on mutual respect and understanding. Goten and Trunks had grown into teenagers, still training but also enjoying normal lives. They attended school, dated, went to parties. The constant threat of world-ending catastrophes had finally ceased, allowing them to experience the childhood that Gohan never had. They were strong enough to protect Earth if necessary, but that necessity seemed increasingly unlikely. The universe had other defenders now, other warriors maintaining peace. Vegeta continued training obsessively, though his motivations had shifted. He no longer trained to surpass Goku out of rivalry or resentment. He trained because it was who he was, because martial arts gave his life structure and meaning. He'd found peace in his family life with Bulma and Bulla, but he'd also found peace in the discipline of constant self-improvement. The two aspects of his life balanced each other, making him more complete than he'd ever been. The World Martial Arts Tournament that concluded the series felt like a celebration of everything Dragon Ball had been about. Fighters from across the world gathered to compete, to test themselves against each other, to prove their skills. It wasn't about saving the world or defeating evil. It was just about the joy of martial arts, the simple pleasure of finding strong opponents and pushing yourself to be better. That's what Goku had always fought for. Not glory or recognition, but the chance to test himself against worthy challenges. Episode 136. Yoob's introduction at the tournament represented the future of the Dragon Ball universe. He was young, untrained, but possessed incredible latent power. He'd come to the tournament hoping to win the prize money to help his poor village, not realizing that he was the reincarnation of the most dangerous being ever to threaten Earth. Goku sensed his potential immediately, recognizing the energy signature even though it had been purified and transformed. The fight between Goku and Oob never really happened in the traditional sense. Goku kept provoking Oob, trying to make him angry, attempting to draw out the boy's hidden power. Oob was confused and overwhelmed, barely able to land a hit. But Goku saw what he could become with proper training. He saw a warrior who could one day surpass even him, someone who could protect Earth when Goku was finally gone. Goku's decision to leave with Oob to train him personally felt right for his character. He'd spent his entire life seeking stronger opponents and stronger versions of himself. Now he had a chance to create a warrior from scratch, to pass on everything he'd learned. It was a way of ensuring that his legacy would continue, that Earth would always have defenders. Pan protested, not wanting her grandfather to leave, but Goku promised he'd visit. The final shot of Dragon Ball Z is deceptively simple. The camera pans across all the characters, showing where they ended up, who they became. Everyone is smiling, happy, content with the lives they've built. Then it focuses on Goku and Oob flying off into the distance, heading toward new adventures and new training. The series ends not with a dramatic battle or a tearful goodbye, but with the promise of continuation. The story of Dragon Ball continues beyond what we see, beyond what we know, carried forward by new generations. Reflections on production. The production of Dragon Ball Z spanned from April 1989 to January 1996, a total of 291 episodes across 7 years. The anime adaptation faced constant challenges in pacing, as the manga was still being written during most of the anime's run. This led to the extensive use of filler episodes, power-up sequences that lasted multiple episodes, and conversations that stretched across entire episodes to avoid catching up to the source material. Akira Toriyama's relationship with the anime production was complex. He provided character designs, approved major plot points, and occasionally contributed ideas for filler content. But he also maintained a careful distance, focusing primarily on the weekly manga chapters. His editor at Shonen Jump, Kazuhiko Torishima, for the early arcs and Yu Kondo for the later ones, served as intermediaries between Toriyama and the animation studio. The voice actors became inseparable from their characters over the 7-year production. Masako Nozawa voiced Goku, Gohan, and Goten, creating distinct personalities for each, despite being the same actor. Ryo Horikawa's Vegeta underwent significant evolution, starting as a villain and gradually softening into something more complex. The English dub cast, particularly the Funimation actors, created their own interpretations that became iconic in Western markets. The music of Dragon Ball Z, composed primarily by Shunsuke Kikuchi, defined the emotional landscape of the series. Tracks like Chala Head Chala for the opening and Mesase Tenkaichi became internationally recognized. The dramatic orchestral pieces during battles, the quiet piano melodies during emotional scenes, and the triumphant brass during victories all contributed to making moments more impactful than they might have been with different musical choices. Legacy and influence. Dragon Ball Z's impact on anime and manga cannot be overstated. It established many of the conventions that would define shonen battle anime for decades. The concept of power levels, the dramatic transformation sequences, the tournament arcs, the training montages, and the escalating stakes all became standard elements that future series would either adopt or deliberately subvert. Shows like Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece owe significant debts to Dragon Ball Z's storytelling structure. The series also changed how anime was perceived in Western markets. Before Dragon Ball Z, anime was largely seen as either children's cartoons or adult animation. Dragon Ball Z occupied a middle ground, appealing to teenagers and young adults while remaining accessible enough for younger viewers. Its success on Cartoon Network's Toonami block in the late 1990s introduced an entire generation of American viewers to anime, many of whom would become lifelong fans of the medium. The themes of Dragon Ball Z resonated across cultures despite being rooted in Japanese storytelling traditions. The emphasis on hard work and training as paths to strength, the importance of protecting others, the possibility of redemption even for former villains, and the bonds formed through shared struggle all translated effectively to international audiences. Vegeta's redemption arc in particular became a template for how to handle morally complex characters in action series. The merchandising around Dragon Ball Z created an economic empire that continues today. Action figures, video games, clothing, and countless other products generated billions of dollars in revenue. The video games, particularly the Budokai and Xenoverse series, introduced new generations to the characters and stories. The franchise never truly ended, eventually continuing through Dragon Ball Super and various films, ensuring that Goku and his friends remained relevant decades after Z concluded. Technical evolution. The animation quality of Dragon Ball Z varied significantly over its 7-year run. Early episodes from the Saiyan and Frieza arcs feature simpler animation with less detail and more static shots. As the series progressed and budgets increased, later arcs like Cell and Buu featured more dynamic camera work, more detailed character models, and more elaborate special effects. The remastered Dragon Ball Kai version updated the animation, corrected colors, and removed filler to create a more streamlined experience. The fight choreography evolved throughout the series. Early battles like Goku vs. Vegeta featured more grounded martial arts with characters using identifiable techniques. Later battles became increasingly abstract, with fighters moving at speeds too fast to perceive, firing energy blasts powerful enough to destroy planets, and transforming into forms that multiplied their power exponentially. This escalation reflected Toriyama's own artistic evolution and his increasing focus on spectacle over technical detail. Sound design played a crucial role in making the battles feel impactful. The distinctive sound effects for energy charging, transformations, and explosions became as iconic as the visuals. The scream Goku makes when transforming into Super Saiyan 3, the sound of the Kamehameha charging, and the explosion noises during beam struggles all contributed to the visceral feeling of the fights. These sounds were often layered and mixed in ways that emphasized the raw power being displayed. The pacing issues that plagued Dragon Ball Z's original run were largely addressed in Dragon Ball Kai, which cut the episode count from 291 to 167. Entire filler arcs were removed, episode-long charge-ups were condensed to minutes, and the overall narrative became tighter. This created a different viewing experience, one that prioritized story momentum over atmospheric buildup. Both versions have their advocates, with some preferring Z's slower, more contemplative pace, and others appreciating Kai's efficiency. Character development arcs. Gohan's journey from frightened child to scholar represented Dragon Ball Z's most complete character arc. He began as someone who wanted nothing to do with fighting, was forced into it by circumstance, achieved incredible power, and ultimately chose to walk away from that power in favor of a normal life. His story asked questions about inherited duty, the cost of power, and whether strength obligated someone to fight. The series' answer, through Gohan, was that heroes could choose peace. Piccolo's transformation from villain to mentor to friend showcased how relationships could fundamentally change a person's nature. He went from planning to conquer Earth to dying to protect it, all because of his bond with Gohan. The evolution felt earned rather than forced, developed over hundreds of episodes through small moments of growth. By the series' end, Piccolo had become the wise guardian of Earth, the strategic mind the Z-fighters relied on when strength alone wasn't enough. Krillin represented the human element in a series increasingly dominated by aliens and transformations. He never achieved the power levels of the Saiyans, never transformed into anything beyond his base form, but he never stopped trying. His relationship with Android 18 showed that love could transcend the boundaries between human and artificial, organic and mechanical. Their family became one of the series' most stable and genuinely happy, a reminder that not everyone needed to chase infinite power to find fulfillment. Trunks, both the future and present versions, represented hope in different ways. Future Trunks showed how even in the darkest timeline, heroes could emerge to fight impossible odds. Present Trunks showed how children raised in peace could still become warriors when necessary. The contrast between them highlighted how circumstance shapes character, how two versions of the same person could develop completely differently based on their environments. Philosophical themes. The concept of strength in Dragon Ball Z evolved significantly from beginning to end. Initially, strength was measured purely through power levels, numerical values that determined who would win a fight. But as the series progressed, strength became more nuanced. Mental discipline mattered. Technique mattered. The ability to stay calm under pressure, to think strategically, to work with others, all of these became forms of strength as important as raw power. The series repeatedly examined the cost of power. Every transformation, every new level of strength came with sacrifice. Goku's Super Saiyan 3 form drained his energy too quickly. Vegeta's obsessive training damaged his relationship with his family. Gohan's power came from rage and trauma. The message was clear: power always costs something, and the strongest warriors were those who understood what they were giving up to obtain it. Redemption emerged as a central theme, particularly through Vegeta and Piccolo. Both characters committed atrocities, killed innocents, and acted as villains. But the series argued that people could change, that past actions didn't permanently define someone's nature. Redemption required genuine remorse, consistent effort to be better, and acceptance that some things couldn't be forgiven even if they could be moved past. Both characters achieved redemption not through a single heroic act, but through years of small choices to be better. The relationship between fate and free will ran throughout the series. Trunks' time travel created alternate timelines, proving that the future wasn't fixed. The characters repeatedly defied prophecies and expectations, achieving transformations that were supposed to be impossible, surviving battles they should have lost. The message was optimistic. Destiny could be changed through effort and determination. The future was what you made it, not what was written. Cultural impact, Dragon Ball Z became a global phenomenon that transcended its origins as a manga series for Japanese teenagers. In Latin America, the series became a cultural touchstone, with entire generations growing up watching Goku's adventures. The Spanish-language dub by voice actors like Mario Castañeda became as iconic as the original Japanese version, if not more so in that region. The series aired in primetime slots and generated massive ratings. In Europe, Dragon Ball Z faced more fragmented reception due to different countries licensing and dubbing the series separately. France became one of the series' biggest markets outside Japan, with French voice actors like Brigitte Lecordier becoming beloved for their performances. The series influenced a generation of European creators, evident in the French bande dessinée and animation that followed. The series' influence extended beyond entertainment into social behavior. Children across the world imitated Kamehameha waves and power-up screams in playgrounds. The idea of someone's power level entered common vernacular as a way to describe strength or capability. The phrase, "it's over 9,000, became one of the most recognized anime memes, spreading far beyond people who had actually watched the series. Academic analysis of Dragon Ball Z has examined its themes of masculinity, violence, and Japanese cultural values. Scholars have debated whether the series glorifies violence or critiques it, whether the constant power escalation represents healthy ambition or toxic masculinity, and how the series' portrayal of alien races functions as metaphor for real-world cultural differences. The series has been both celebrated and criticized, but its cultural significance is undeniable. The music of Dragon Ball Z. Shunsuke Kikuchi's musical score for Dragon Ball Z consisted of hundreds of distinct pieces, each designed to evoke specific emotions during battles, character moments, and story developments. The battle themes featured driving percussion and brass instruments that created urgency and excitement. The emotional themes used strings and piano to underscore moments of loss, sacrifice, and triumph. The villain themes incorporated dissonant harmonies and unusual instruments to create unease. The opening theme song, Chala Head Chala, became one of anime's most recognizable songs globally. Performed by Hironobu Kageyama, the song's energetic melody and optimistic lyrics perfectly captured the series' adventurous spirit. The full lyrics spoke about pursuing dreams, facing challenges head-on, and maintaining hope even when situations seemed impossible. The song has been covered countless times in multiple languages and remains popular decades after its debut. The ending themes varied across the series' run, with songs like Ditakoi Tabikiri Zenkai Power providing closure to episodes. These songs were generally more mellow than the opening, allowing viewers to decompress after intense episode cliffhangers. The imagery accompanying these songs often featured the characters in peaceful moments, reminding audiences that even warriors needed rest. The English dub created by Funimation initially used a completely different musical score composed by Bruce Falconer and his studio. This music featured more rock and electronic elements compared to Kikuchi's orchestral approach. The Falconer score became deeply associated with Dragon Ball Z for Western audiences, with tracks like Vegeta's theme and Cell's theme achieving iconic status. The choice of which soundtrack was better became a common debate among fans, with both having passionate advocates. Animation techniques. The animation of Dragon Ball Z utilized several techniques to convey speed and power. Speed lines, where the background is replaced with horizontal or radial lines, indicated rapid movement. Characters would be drawn in blurred or smear positions for single frames to show acceleration or impact. Energy effects used multiple layers of animation, with glowing auras and sparks composited over the character art to create the feeling of unleashed power. The transformation sequences became increasingly elaborate as the series progressed. Early transformations like Goku's first Super Saiyan featured relatively simple visual effects: golden hair, green eyes, and a yellow aura. Later transformations like Super Saiyan 3 included extensive rock formations crumbling, electricity effects, wind effects, and extended power-up sequences that could last several minutes. These sequences became anticipated moments, with fans eagerly awaiting each new transformation's unique visual style. Combat was often depicted through Sakuga animation, where particularly skilled animators would be brought in to handle key fight sequences. These sequences featured more frames of animation, more detailed artwork, and more dynamic camera angles than standard episodes. The Sakuga scenes became highlights that fans would seek out and share, celebrating the artistry involved in bringing these battles to life. The use of still frames and panning shots was a cost-saving measure that became part of the series' aesthetic. When characters powered up or had internal monologues, the animation would often freeze on a dramatic pose while the camera slowly panned across the image. This technique stretched screen time without requiring new animation frames, but it also created a sense of weight and importance to these moments. The technique has been both praised and parodied in subsequent anime. Voice acting performances. Masako Nozawa's portrayal of Goku across multiple series and hundreds of episodes created one of anime's most distinctive character voices. She voiced Goku from childhood through adulthood, as well as his sons and grandson, maintaining distinct personalities for each character. Her performance balanced Goku's childlike enthusiasm with his serious determination in battle. Western audiences initially found the feminine voice for a male character unusual, but it became inseparable from the character in Japanese versions. Christopher Sabat's English voice for Vegeta captured the character's pride and anger while also allowing vulnerability to show through in key moments. His performance evolved alongside Vegeta's character development, starting harsh and bitter and gradually incorporating warmth as Vegeta formed connections with others. The contrast between Sabat's deep, masculine voice and Nozawa's higher register for Goku created a different dynamic than the Japanese version. The decision to have the same actors voice characters across multiple forms and transformations created continuity, but also challenges. Voice actors had to modulate their performances to suggest increased power without completely changing the character's voice. They learned to add roughness, depth, or intensity while maintaining the core vocal characteristics. The screaming required for transformation sequences and beam struggles put significant physical strain on the actors. Supporting characters' voice actors developed their own followings. Tiffany Vollmer's squeaky voice for Bulma in the English dub became iconic, as did Sonny Straight's nasally Krillin and Chris Rager's gruff Android 16. Each actor brought personality to their character that went beyond the script, adding improvisational elements during recording that became part of how fans remembered these characters. Thanks for listening tonight. If you're ready for more, there's another Palm video waiting just to the left. Let it guide you deeper into rest. You might fall asleep to something new.